different operators, and it just means things get a little bit spicy.
Let's get into our bans and see if we get any spicy bans. We're going to have Maverick going to begin with. Second attacker will follow. And there's no surprises. It's going to be the Blitz.
Yes.
Seeing one of those shields go by the wayside is pretty much as expected.
Target bans against each of the dots. A through and through Maverick main is most played operator across stage 2. Blitz, Lagonis is most played by a country mile. He's played Monty 14 times and Blitz 29 times, so it's 100% a target ban. This one against Nesk in the Azami, played it 28 times. And then the Fenrir here is coming in against Volps, who has played it 12 times. So, quite specific bans here that it looks like, and some of them you'd say, okay, they're pretty staple bans, you know, especially looking towards the Azami and the Blitz. But it is because on either team, there are very, very significant threats on those specific operators.
This is what you've got to look towards sometimes, realistically. Is it a case of looking to take away the function, or is it trying to hinder the individual? And like you say, I think maybe there's a little bit of crossover between the two, certainly with these ones, the Blitz particularly. Blitz is an interesting one because obviously, like, you know, we've been talking a lot about Monty and Blitz. The teams have, in general terms, been dealing with the shields really well so far through this tournament, I think. They've pretty much been on top of how to deal with them and reduce their impact a little bit, but it's basically, how do you want to play it? Do you want to play the Monty that's a little bit more passive, is going to create space, can bully people, of course, but certainly not in the sense that a Blitz would. When you bring in the Blitz, you want in that aggression. Blitz is actually really good. This is one that you give a whirl in your ranked games as well. If you
There we go, rank tips with Tim, how to stay in silver.
Love a rank tip with Tim. If you want to come in through ops to push onto this site, which is a really popular position to push into, you usually have them playing in sort of the 90 corridor, top rocket, and you know, down the left-hand side of your screen. Running it, you got to be careful of any pre-placed nitros. Make sure there's no pre-placed nitros round by the door. But even if they're playing a mirror or anything, if you keep yourself sort of face onto the wall, get in there with a Blitz. Once you get into that corridor, you're actually pretty safe. If there's anybody that decides to stay and challenge you, you can flash your shield, and it can be a really effective way of gaining space. I think, you know, given the fact that Blitz is banned, we'll probably see similar with the Monty instead, should it be brought along, which it has been by dots. It's just a really good area that you can take quick control of with the shields.
Quick thing I noticed here actually was where the walls have been opened up, that goes straight through the I know, right? Straight through the vertical slice. But normally, if there's two walls that are normally reinforced off by most teams, have been left soft here. And I think that what that means is you get a real long sight line all the way through site itself up towards Skybridge. And I'm a little bit wary of that if the attackers get into a good spot, they basically are able to cut both sides completely in half and isolate away the defenders. That's assuming, of course, Tim, they even care about that, because of how things are currently shaping up here. They're going for this mass war. They've got two players looking towards ops. You can see what the focus is going to be.
Yeah, W7M are playing into exactly what I said. They want to push the Mountie in through ops. They want to take that corridor. But Liquid, they've read into that game as well. They've got the clash on side. Lagonis is already positioned. You can see his silhouette on your screen ahead of you. He's just going to be holding that Monty back, and Clash is the perfect counter. If you're unaware, Clash's electricity will do damage to Monty even through his extended shield, so it's just absolutely perfect. Lagonis can just hold that shield at bay for as long as possible. They're trying to get the breach, but again, Liquid doing a great job with the Tuberau, with the electricity, combining those operators just to keep them off that wall. Great stuff so far from Liquid on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, working wonderfully. They've stored away so much time, and the Selmas have all been used at this point as well, so now all attention turns towards the Thermite. But where's Dash? He's inside of the map. He's not focusing on helping them get the mass wall opened up. Instead, he's playing like a little rat down here in the basement, looking to try and find a bit of a backstab later on. Again, aware here that it's the only hard breach they've now got left on side, so they've got to be respectful of this. I think if you don't end up having any hard breach available for these main walls that you want open, you're going to pay the price for it.
And we're seeing here that W7M, I think, are making that rotation, saying, look, this isn't working at the minute. We're not getting into ops. We're not getting the breach open. We're going to have to push towards our 6-room side instead. And that is what they're going to do. They move across towards bathroom, towards that window, try and get themselves on inside of the map. But they're now being fronted up by Paolu on the smoke. We've got the Toxic Babes going out. Volps does manage to get a kill onto Nest, but with 20 seconds left to go, this is going to be a difficult push for W7M now.
Oh, Dodo, so he's just hanging onto this angle and waiting for the Liquid players to walk into him. And he's found 3 kills for himself, completely deleted. The other side, and although it looked very, very slow, and for a good amount of time, a little bit worrying there is the only way I can describe it, they still get it over the line.
Liquid have taken their eye off the ball a little bit there. They've focused up on that rotation, and they've moved absolutely everything over to it. They've got Toxic Babe canisters going there. They're moving Lagonis over there. They're wanting everything over that side. They've switched the push, but W7M smartly have switched it all but one and just send one in towards Top Rocket from Ops, I think is where he's got in from. Gets himself 3, and it is as easy as that. W7M, there are 10 seconds left to do that, and I think Liquid have let that one slip through, to be honest. It is a round that they should have been winning, and looking back at that, I'm sure that they would say the same. They are going to mix things up. We move into round 2. It's going to be down into the basement.
All right, well, that means there's a full map to work through here for W7M, and if you were attentive in the previous round, you'll have noticed that they didn't quite move at pace, Tim. They left it until the final 25 seconds before they finally pulled the trigger. They struggled to get walls opened up. They were held at bay by the stall play coming out from Liquid, and you're getting more of that in this round. Capcans, as soon as you trigger the first Capcan, it's like, great, where are you the 4? You got Smoke to worry about, you got the Goyo, you got C4s, you got the Bandit, you got the Kai. There's so much here to stall and inhibit W7M from making progress through the map that really, for me, it's going to come down to how fast they can take over this top floor, then look to get control of the first floor, and then start thinking about the basement. That's why they've got things like the Jackal on side, so they aren't wasting too much time dancing around, chasing these roamers that could be anywhere to be around the map. At the minute, it's only really the Stoke that's... the what? The smoke that's upstairs. I'll say the Stokes that's upstairs.
The Stokes that's upstairs?
It's upstairs with us here, sure, yeah. But no, the smoke that's upstairs in this case. I can't imagine Parlo will be hanging out there too long, though. Smoke's one of those operators that often speak about power spikes. You have different points in the round when operators are particularly potent. And really for the Smoke, it's in the dying 30 seconds when he can stall out an area of the map for the full 30 seconds and make it a very, very unfair gunfight for the attackers if he's in the right place at the right time.
Droning will continue for the first minute or so for the attackers. W7M here just to try and make sure everything's clear. They're going to want to get some verticals by the looks of things. They've got the Jackal going in with the shotgun. They've also got Striker going in with the secondary shotgun. So they're going to be doing that little bit of work. It will take them a little bit more time. If they're trying to support the book, they're going to do less destructive work, of course. But so long as Lobin keeps himself alive, gets in there, he's going to chew through that floor. And they're going to be able to get a lot of the verticals. They've got the hard breach gadgets for the hatchers. So really, W7M should have everything they need here. They are taking a lot of time, though. We're halfway through the round before they start opening things up. And that is really an indicator of the size of Lair and the difficulty to make sure that everything's clear before you go in.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw Lair play was actually in Brazil, and I forget which team it was. What team's live on? It's completely escaping me, 100%.
Sorry?
What team is live on? You remember? One of the newer teams. E1, that's
E1,
it.
there you go.
They were one of the first teams that I saw attacking this map. And actually, this exact site, they had a wonderful setup where the plant went down, and they had a double crossfire on the downstairs, plus live with the buck upstairs, holding it off, and there was nothing the defenders could do to retake. They had to force 2 or 3 players upstairs to try and retake things from live, but they just didn't have the time. I think it was against NIP where they really struggled with that. And I can see the semblance or the makings of a similar attack coming together here, where it's all about the vertical control. It's about the pressure. You've got the Monty downstairs feeding information, and you've got Dash on the Jackal ready for a bit of a backstab when the time is right.
Yeah, Monte being held at bay once again by those Toxic Babe canisters. Just going to pull out the Impact EMP. We'll need to know roughly, of course, the radius fairly small, so we need to have a good understanding of where that electrical is, but I think that is not posing too much of a problem whatsoever. 20 seconds left to go. Toxic Babe is just going to be wearing off as they manage to push through the door, but Lagonis and Nesk managed to find one apiece. Monty's a little bit stranded and is going to be dealt with by Parlu. 4 versus 1 as Parlu manages to find another. Make it 3, Des. Why not? He just keeps going and going. The gift that keeps on giving down in the basement. 3 kills, and that's going to be Liquid taking their first defense.
3 for him this round, and 3 for Dodas in the prior. We've had our 2 heroes of the game so far stepping up. That really was again about the time-wasting gameplay, and I spoke about it at the round start and also in the previous round. They're trying to slow down W7M as much as they can. That's why you had the smoke training out. That's why you had electricity to try and get through. It's why you had the Goyo canisters everywhere. Just leaving a little bit too much for W7M to do around the map there in terms of getting it fully cleared out and hunting down any would-be roamers. Just keeping them very, very busy, and I think it was really well played, despite W7M's best efforts to get set up with the verticals, and hatch opened up and walls open, for example. Nothing really went their way, unfortunately.
Round 3. We're going to have Liquid continuing their rotation. They did have the option potentially to go back up to the top floor, but they're not going to choose to do so. And instead opting to just go through. Sometimes teams like to just continue that rotation on the defense. You know, they've already lost one. Let's give somewhere else a little bit of a whirl. They're going to need some top floor control, as we can see. Bit of utility being expended up there. We've got the reinforcements. We've got the rotations opened up. So they're going to be trying to hold on to that top floor, but with a little bit less utility than they had previously. Obviously, when you're holding the top floor, you're sticking absolutely everything up there. That's not going to be the case this time.
On our other stream, by the way, it's Dark Zero versus D plus Kier, I believe, is the matchup over there. Just a reminder, we do have 2 streams running for at least the next couple of days, and then it starts to all simmer down to just one stream where all the action takes place. So if you do have a second monitor, get it up and keep an eye on what's going on over there as well. I love it when you have the end of round syncing up with the prep phase of the other, so you can kind of jump between round endings in a way and skip through the prep phase in the early parts of the round. Exciting stuff can happen sometimes early on, but again, 2 big games to keep an eye on, so I'd fully recommend tuning into that one too. Dots is getting himself up towards the Skybridge here, and is now going to be very conscious that he's not too careful. He'll find his feet getting shot out, and Myers now also found him as well. That's not so ideal for them. Dodes might get the trade, but look at this, the aggression coming in from both sides here, really going neck and neck. And don't forget, this is just the doorway into the building, Tim, the other side of the map from where the bomb sites actually are.
Paulo and Ness, the dream team, just doubling up there on the doorway and making sure that W7M were getting absolutely nothing for free. They are going to lose the Monty. They are going to lose the Grim. They've got an IQ down to 1 HP. Liquid certainly in the driving seat when it comes to this round. Also, potentially going to have a little bit of intel. I wouldn't have expected too many of those black eye cameras, if any, to have survived.
You're scared of a C4.
Given that the IQ is still on side. But yeah, Lobin definitely being careful of the potential still for any throws coming through, whether with intel or whether just based on sound. He doesn't want to be anywhere near those explosives from below.
Also, don't forget that that trap works both ways as well. You've got the Valkyrie track down, sure. The Bandit standing nearby. Of course, it's got the Valkyrie right next to him. Sat, you know, brothers in arms, essentially. Resets and Nesk here, where they can call to each other as to where the Deimos roughly is. And if a C4 goes the right way at the right time, goodbye, Deimos. It is the risk of running in by himself without like a Dokkaebi or a Lion on side there, is that you leave yourself quite exposed to getting baited. That's almost what happened there, but obviously for now chose to back away instead. Palu keeps up the killing, mind you. A 2k in this round so far, and Dodes offline.
I'm not sure they're aware of Dash's position here. He was just going to wander on in towards sight. A few bullets seem to find their way towards him. Maybe they are aware. Look at the beauty there from Resets. The patience, just using that little head glitch over the bomb. Has a little look through the far side. Sees his man come in. Steps out. Perfect swing. Gets the kill. Liquid 3 versus 1. It's all up to Lobin. Has 1 track left to use. Sees the Valkyrie. Knows he's being pressured from multiple sides here. Can't get the Vandal singing, so he's going to switch away to the primary, but won't get the job done. As Parlu says, enough is enough. I'm coming out and I'm getting this round.
He was sick and tired of waiting there to see what was going to happen next. But it's well played by Liquid, I think, in the end of round setup. You know, a 3-way crossfire onto those stairs. There is nothing realistically the Deimos is going to be able to do. Another solid round, and Liquid really starting to grow into this half. You expect it sometimes in the early couple of rounds that things will go a little bit back and forth. We've definitely seen a few teams caught asleep for 2, 3, 4 rounds at the start of their map so far, but Liquid, especially Parlu, it feels like really turned up to play.
It's always a dangerous thing. It's always a dangerous thing when that happens, of course. You get him wrestling with somebody like Nesk potentially for the top spot, fighting over kills. That is exactly what you want. A feeding frenzy, if you will, inside of the server. But right now, it is certainly Parlu eating this one up. 6-1. Unstoppable over the last couple of rounds. W7M, they're not a mile off the pace, to be fair, Des. These rounds aren't, you know, wildly far apart. W7M, generally speaking, are getting in towards site. They are making those site players think about where they're positioned, take fights, have those challenges. But ultimately, last couple of rounds, Liquid have just had the answers. We'll see now whether they can hold on to the top floor site, whether W7M, once again, it was... I don't know. Last time they struggled to get in through ops, they struggled to get the breach, so they switched around. They got away with the round because they had a little backstab come on through and Liquid took their eye off the ball a little bit. That's not going to happen again. I don't think they're going to be making that same mistake, so it's not something that can be relied upon. But how about this, Des? Double shield. We've got the Monty, we've got the Fuse shield.
I think it was Kag who first popularised this, Anderson specifically. I know Fuse has always seen a little bit of a meme operator that you'd only really see brought along in ranked, and someone chucks out a barricade and it's of no use to you at all. Not always quite the case. Really good for making space, for destroying a lot of utility when it's scattered down. It's definitely excellent for overwhelming things like ADSs and magnets that may be scattered around, but it can be quite a conditional gadget to get the most value out of. So here, it's definitely about the shield that Dots is currently rocking. And by the looks of it, Tim, they're cooking something up here. They want to go fast by the looks of it with how they're currently fixed and ready to go, just waiting for the right opportunity, the right distraction to come in from elsewhere. And the rest of the team can start making their moves.
Yeah, I think they're definitely just waiting for anything to happen with this breach. It's going to be about getting these few charges through, but look at this. Liquid have read into it beautifully. They start playing with the Bandit batteries as well. They know exactly where that pressure was going to come from, and they were prepped. They were ready for it. Nest has had those mute jammers down. Toxic Babes come in. Kill after kill after Palu and Nesk managing to get 3 between them before Dots can find any answer. But what about this? Dots, he gets another 2, continues, but no! Lagonis is there to shut him down. The fuse shield was almost decisive in that round.
Potentially massive. I mean, Palu to win the 1 versus 2 as it broke out around the art window. That was the most impressive part for me. You got a shield bearing down on you, a Gridlock just snaking nice and tight around the corner, hoping to catch you off guard, and he still manages to find both. I said he really ain't missing them today. And I remember a good few years ago, Tim, actually speaking about this team when they didn't manage to win SI. We said, could you imagine a timeline where Palu and Nest don't win something at some point? I think Palu still remembers those words because it is one hell of a show that he's putting on. Sat up at 8 and 2 so far. Really flying the same number of kills as the rest of his entire team.
He's just one of those players that can have those games. It's a Shaiko, a Palu, you know, there's not many of them where they're just going to come out and the decision isn't really yours. The decision isn't really yours as to whether anything can be done about it. You can go in and challenge them, but you're going to find yourself probably getting headshot within a fraction of a second every single time because they are just on it. They are sharp, and that is how Palu is looking today. So Liquid sit 3-1, heading back down to the basement. They were able to win this out last time around. They're going to be looking for more of the same here. Question is, I kind of think, Paulu's doing great. He's 8 and 2. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
No, I was more going, the scope boss, to be fair.
It'd be a good thing.
That's my excitable noise.
Is it?
I was about to do a Yoda impression. I'm so glad I did not.
Oh, I think we've all missed out there.
You have a little bit. Maybe I'll bring it out later for you.
I think we've all missed out on a wonderful clip. It's great that Paulu's going 8 and 2, but it does keep everybody else quiet. It wouldn't be the end of the world if everybody else could get involved in the round a little bit, because heading towards the second half, when you get onto attack, it's whether Palu can keep doing that or not. You want everybody being sharp, so it wouldn't hurt Liquid if everybody else can get a couple of kills as well.
They're going in fast here as well. Don't care about the Scoffos up on top floor. They're going straight in. Reset's already falling down. Lagonis has gone 2. Volt's just tearing Liquid a new one at the start of this round. Like that, they've lost so much control. The site is no longer theirs. I say that, Maya starts to stage a bit of a fight back. Dash been picked off, but the problem is, as I said, Tim, you've not really got much information on what's going on site at this point. You've lost 2 of the players that were in your backline. At least managed to sneak his way forward. A shield over the top, and a C4 comes in. Half damage done towards Dots here, but still sat on 69 HP. Nice.
This is the problem. You've got 3 players more than capable of clutching this out. Phelps takes down Palu, which certainly isn't going to help the situation. But when you throw the Monty into the mix as well, what do? They're just going to get bullied all around site. Lobin manages to find Maya. Nesk, he's closed out of sight at the minute. He's trying to work his way back in, but Lobin's there for the kill. W7M, a much better attack from there. And it was all driven by that double that Volts managed to pick up at the beginning. Just wanders on in, gets aggressive, and it feels like, again, Liquid, the rounds that they're losing, it's when something happens that they're not prepared for. It's something that they don't really notice is going to happen. And it was the case again. And W7M, they've taken full advantage of that. So for me, the more unpredictable W7M can be, the more different directions that they can press Liquid from, the more joy they're going to get. If they're just going in on a default attack, if they're just going in from one position, one angle, Liquid are standing up to it fantastically well. They need to be prodding and probing from all over the site and making Liquid turn on their heels so that they're creating that space, those angles they can walk in on. And it's that age-old sentence, how is he inside a site and 2 of us are dead? and nobody saw it coming.
Big one for me is more the pace game, right? And it kind of comes, it builds off what you're saying there. Like, it's less about directions for me and more about the change in pace. I've got a rehost coming in, so we'll sort that out now. But just to kind of touch on that a little bit further, the pace game is where things... Imagine if you were playing ranked, for example, right, and you're on defense. In a dream world, there is one engagement being taken at a time where an attacker pushes by themselves, and you go, cool, taking the gunfight, killed him or lost. Okay, then we can rotate players over and now recover that hole in the defense, right? Where teams, even at this level, will struggle is when a team says, right, 45 seconds in, we're going into site. I'm pushing into this hole in the defense that we've pre-analysed. We've already done a lot of homework on how they play this map, and they're in a spot and they're exploiting a hole in the defense. That's exactly what Volts has gone on and done there. Found a way through and cut through 2 players and completely upended the backline, meaning the roamers no longer have a safe way back towards site. Yeah, Maya gets a kill. That's all well and good. But the ability to get back into site is always going to be a big challenge from that point. Whereas where Liquid have seen success is when W7M are doing a full map clear, are getting super prepared, and it's taking them 2.5 minutes to actually start taking gunfights. That's where the success is coming from so far for Liquid. So for W7M, I think keeping mixing it up and keep on bringing new ideas and changing the pace mid-round is the way to do it. It's why I look at some teams that have been doing particularly well and are quite successful. FaZe are a team that I think of as being quite slow, and SSG, as much as they've been up and down at times, their attacking game tends to be pretty strong because they have that ability to go slow and go fast and keep teams always asking questions about what the hell's coming this round and what's coming next.
It's opportunity spotting.
Yeah.
It's like you say, seeing that gap and having the confidence.
And saying that gap's mine.
Having the confidence, exactly, to know that you're going to go in and know what's going to happen. Know that you are going to get those kills and just have that firm belief that that will be the case. I don't think we're going to be too long until we're back into this one. So don't you worry at all. I think we've got everybody back in the lobby. We're just waiting to get things started. We'll make sure that everything is nice and smooth before we take you back to it. But right now, I feel like Liquid are on top here. Like I say, the rounds that are being won by W7M, generally speaking, are rounds whereby there is an opportunity, there is a gap, they're able to maybe take Liquid's attention or, make a lot of noise over here and send somebody in through this gap over here, create that space. Liquid, generally speaking, as I say, I think have been the more complete team. They've been more settled in what they want to do. They just need to make sure they're not getting caught out by that unpredictability from W7M. It's pretty much going to end after the next round anyway. The question is, can Liquid bring their own version of that on the attack?
It's more of a case here for Liquid feeling they can hold out for the 4-2. Otherwise, W7M taking 3 attacking rounds does not feel too bad.
4-2 would be a great start for Liquid, to be fair.
And not forgetting as well, for Liquid, this is a map that, as I mentioned, they very rarely play. They only bring it out in very specific situations where they feel that they've got something ready in store to bring against the team. And that's obviously what they're hoping here against W7M, but I don't know. I think W7M have found the answers at points and adapted pretty well to the situation put before them. Game is now booting back up, so we'll get back into it. Yeah, one thing I've never heard before is Brazilian efficiency, because they were back in that lobby rapid.
No messing about from them, I'd agree.
Whereas some teams can take minutes to get back in. I'm just like, come now.
It feels like a lot longer sometimes when we're sat here yapping, does
it? For those at home, absolutely. I can only apologise that your ears have to endure the yap.
We all love a good yap.
Yap for days, mate.
3-2 it is then as we get back on into this one. Liquid versus W7M. It will be our final defensive round for Liquid. Playing it out on Lair. It is the first map of a best of 3. The winner will join our first qualified team, which is, pause for dramatic effect, FaZe, who went through in...
Well, that was a really undramatic ending to that dramatic pause.
Because it was a piece of information that pretty much everybody already knows. So FaZe went through after they were able to beat Falcons in the last matchup. This is in the same bracket of games. It's 2-0, so both of these teams have won 2, lost 0. In the Swiss stage, it's really, the simplest that I can make it for you is you win 3 games, you go through, you lose 3 games, you go out. It's as simple as that. You play until one of those 2 things happens. Whenever it's going to be a 3rd game, so a 3rd win or a 3rd loss, it will be a best of 3. So to qualify or to be eliminated will be a best of 3. That's where we stand at the minute. Both of these teams can get that 3rd win. Whoever loses does not go out. They will be 2-1. They will go on to play tomorrow against somebody with a similar record. It'll be another best of 3 for them now and another opportunity to qualify through. So by getting themselves those first 2 wins, they've given themselves now essentially 3 chances to qualify in a best of 3.
Spot on. Very handy explanation. Right, Heartbreach coming on through onto the wall to get themselves moving on in. Hopefully they get a second one on that, because it might end up going off here, and that can always be the worry when it pops back online and takes it away about half
close.
a second away. I've seen so many teams get it wrong. It's always quite terrifying, to be honest with you. Left side done up here as well, so no real effect. Not quite sure what the game plan was with the second one, but we'll take it. At least the wall's opened up, and that's the most important part.
I don't know if they were maybe hoping for a bit of movement or something, wondering if the bandit was in behind there. Yeah, you know, maybe dump the impact EMP, see if they go to pop a bandit on there, and then, you know, you could just have a look in through that hole that you've just made and get yourself a cheap kill. I don't know, but there was no sound. There was certainly nothing to attract them to anything else. How about that? Dots with an absolute beauty of a long shot onto Parlu to kick things off.
And then Lobin's coming on the backside while all this focus is being created and drawn to Dots, and he stepped in and found two. W7M have just completely undone Liquid here in round 6. They'll get that 3-3 split they're after, unless Lagonis, the poor sod, can pull something off by himself.
How often do we see Lagonis in these 1vx situations? He's always the last to lie.
He's our tennis hero. I love him to bits, but he ain't that guy. I'm afraid he ain't that guy.
For a 1v4, 1v5, it's good. There's not many people who are that guy.
He ain't that guy. And he's got Deimos alive with 2 tracks left. He's dead. He's dead. He's got to be dead. That's going down, and now he's dead. There we go.
Flawless round will come in for W7M, and it's again similar to what I was saying. Liquid just getting caught out with that multiple angle approach, with just focusing in the wrong direction at the wrong time, essentially, and W7M taking full advantage of it, just collapsing all at the same time. 4 kills come in rapid succession, and Liquid find themselves now 3-3. We do have just a resurface of that technical pause, so we will just have a very short one.
Logan got a Demon Slayer mouse mat. That is so cool.
I don't know what that is.
It's an anime. I know you're uncultured.
I know what a mouse mat is. You know why I know?
Well, you didn't know you didn't bring one.
I was going to say, you know why I know? Because I forgot mine. I left it at home.
I've been joking for a while that I want to start taking over. Yes! Yes, production! It definitely is from Demon Slayer. Inosuke, his name is in the anime. It's, don't know why. It's a character that wears a hog's head, but is absolutely batshit crazy.
Okay.
It's good fun, actually. You should watch it at some point.
Okay.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Cartoons for adults.
Why not?
Oh, no, exactly.
I've nothing against it whatsoever. I'm just, it's not on my radar, really.
Well, now it is.
The thing is, I've got, you know, I don't have much spare time, Des. You know that I spend all of my available free time in the ranked mines. You know, 260 games a season don't play themselves, Des.
They do not.
Those are the dizzy heights that we've got to in this season, but Operation Twin Shells has been a good one to me.
Mm-hmm. For multiple reasons.
Kind of hard stuck Emerald at the minute, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
tell you what, the other series is on Lair and it's 3-3.
Is it? What are the chances?
I tell you what, it's poetry and motion. They're following each other like a mirror.
Slightly different outcome, though.
Yeah.
I believe the other series is an elimination game, if I'm not wrong.
It is, yes. You were saying to me earlier on, imagine if D plus Kia send Dark Zero home. Imagine. I mean, G2 have gone home and like that. The thing is, I wouldn't say against Sonics it was unexpected. I think it's more the fashion in which it happened.
Yeah.
Getting 14 and 2 across the 2 maps is like crazy.
At that stage, it's largely unheard of. I think it's. I'm not sure that we've had that scoreline as an elimination scoreline before.
No.
We've certainly had the.
We've had I think actually there was one that was found back in 2021. I think it was Laxin mentioned he found one.
You got to go a long way back.
You are really digging into the history books there to find it for sure.
Going a long way back, aren't you, to find it? And you know, commiserations with G2, of course. Always an entertaining team to watch, and it's from our perspective, we never want to see those kind of results. You know, it's nice to come out and see somebody play so well. The Sonics were absolutely fantastic. It's nice to see that, but equally, we want those competitive games. We want it going the distance. We want two teams in there delivering their best and really fighting, and it's been a tough afternoon for G2.
A geezer in chat said that apparently the exact same maps are being played in the other series.
Really?
Literally the exact same 3? Yeah. That is weird.
I'd like, I mean...
That has happened before.
No.
Yeah, having the same BO3 as well. Was all 3 maps the same, Richard, or was it just 2? That's what I need to know. I can't remember if the 3rd map would have been the same if we'd seen it. I mean, G2 were getting nowhere near the 3rd map, let's be honest. But if they got there, I'd love to know if Falcons and FaZe were also going to go to the same 3rd map. Because that is... They're going to the labs. Oh, they was different maps, yeah, because one was labs and one was something else. I forget what it was, but it was definitely a different map.
Just to confirm,
but the first 2...
Des isn't randomly calling me Richard.
The voice is in my head.
He's talking to
Well, you know that Richard is another name for Dick, therefore that's what I'm calling you Richard for, mate.
How rude.
Got him! And this is the B stream, and it's nearly the end of the day, so I feel like I can make those kind of
I'm not talking.
PG jokes. B stream, best stream.
B for best.
Richard's right. Thank you, Richard. Right, let's crack on. We're back in, and we're into the second half. It's going to be W7M on the defensive side. I feel they kind of like cracked that egg wide open in the first half, getting those 3 attacks. Look pretty good at it. But the one that you got to really fear, Tim, as I spoke about in the pre-games, Maya on the Deimos. He's a nightmare on this operator. You might look at it and go, oh, well, Desi's an entry, right? So he can go down sometimes, right? Nah. Very consistently, he's one of the last couple of players left alive, normally with a couple of those Deimos scans still in back pocket, and that makes any 2v2 or 3v3 they get left in, or even a 1v1 in some cases, basically impossible for Liquid to lose. So keep a close eye on him throughout this half.
Got resets on the Hibana here. Interesting. I mean, Palu on the book is not an unusual sight either. Hibana is, of course, one of his operators as well that he frequently uses, but this time he's going to be switching away. Resets is just looking to open up at least one of those castle barricades. Just puts the Excaros pellets on there for the time being. He can run away, he can detonate them at a later point. It could be a really nice distraction. Again, it's an interesting technique. Just put them on there, leave it, and then you move over to the other side. You're looking to get that push. You detonate them. It takes the focus away from what you're actually doing, potentially. As it is, we've got Palu just looking to roam around underneath as well. He's obviously going to be on the book. I think he's not sure exactly where they're pushing for, whether they're going to be looking for the main breach or not, because of course from underneath he could try and support that and make sure that the bandit can't just play in behind that wall, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Instead, they're going for the windows, and Palu's going to be looking up through this hatch, seeing if he can get anything going. He's getting a little bit of intel above him as well. We see a red ping just signaling the position of a defender. If he can open up that floor, Palu's going to make it very, very difficult for W7M to play this side comfortably.
Wait for him to slice someone open. They get the wrong angle. They step across the moment without realizing he's there, and it's all over. Palu in towards one. Back on his old trusty buck as well. Rounds around the side, but resets. He's like, nah, that one's mine, fam. 4 kills fly through. Dash all by himself. And it's like snakes on the ground. What's going on? I think everyone got blown over by the air jab at that point. But either way, it's not a win going his way, and it's a very comfortable first round here for Liquid.
Palu's had a great game there. Got great round. Got himself underneath. Was hunted down but managed to find the kills, and we just see the speed of thought that comes out as well as he moves around, switches to the skeleton key, blasts a hole in the wall he didn't need to. His teammate helps him out with a kill, but it just shows that speed of thought that he's coming in with, the use of that gadgeting utility to try and find those kills, and it's absolutely no wonder. I think he's 10-2 at the minute. I know we've had a stats reset. No, at 10-4. I correct myself. He's had 4 deaths so far, but still going fantastically well for Palu inside of the first 7 rounds, and I'm sure Liquid are going to be hoping that that continues, especially, as you said, Des, if they can get Maya activated on the Deimos as well to continue. But we are going to see W7M move along. They're going to do exactly as Liquid did when they lost the top floor. They're going to head down to the basement for their second defensive round here in round 8.
We know how it played out in the first half. It was about dragging the enemy team through the entirety of the map, running the clock down, playing the stall tactic. It's very similar here. Tubarao, Kai, Goyo, Smoke. One more looking towards Breach Nile, one more towards Space Nile. That's what the Smoke and the Goyo are for, especially. So I think here what we're rolling out with the W7M is all about, again, slowing Liquid down. Trying to do back onto them what Liquid did to them back in the first half. And what have Liquid brought along to try and speed this up? Well, you've got the Ram for the vertical destruction, no Buck, which is quite an interesting choice. Got the Lion on side along with the Grim for the execute more than anything else. And of course, Monty. Why else wouldn't you have Monty? I mentioned earlier about Lagonis not really having the best KD, but that's because he spent so much of this tournament sat on the Monty. And well, yeah, shields can be quite lethal these days. It's also pretty fair to say that sometimes it's not really his role. It's much more about the information that you feed for your team.
Yep, Monty, our ever-present shieldy boy, will be looking to push in and just create that little bit of space, take that attention, and facilitate everybody else on the side of Liquid. There's a lot of droning going on because they know that there's players in that mid-floor. I think W7M just trying to defend the verticals. They don't want to give them up, but it looks like Liquid are going to be heading much more direct to site. However, Lobin just gets himself out into the warehouse there a little bit, and it's something that Liquid need to be aware of. He doesn't catch them out, but certainly could do. Liquid now in control of that mid-floor. We can hit the boogie drones of the Ram ripping up the floor and trying to create those vertical angles. We'll see whether Liquid can get any joy from above.
Completely agree. And for me, I think Lagonis actually almost got caught out by Lobin as well. He was running around by the outside, ran out the building once he'd already pushed his way inside, and enough to get away with it. He's back inside now. They've managed to force Lobin back at the very least, but it means they're inside the building. We're still half the round to play. It's been a bit of a slower start, but I don't mind this from teams. Like, often I speak about the kind of being able to change pace, and some rounds go fast, some go slow, or even sometimes do both in the same round. Being able to change that pace is really important. But what they've tried to do here is ensure they've really got a good setup, that everything's locked down, they've got the flank drones set up. I don't know how many they're going to have at this point because there's only 2 drones out in the field, but it's enough that they're in a spot to start marching forward. My main concern, though, is all this utility that's now going to impede them on their pushing towards site. We've only got 60 seconds still to play.
Palu found a starter by taking down Volps, and that takes Toxic Babe canisters off the board as well. So important when trying to deal with a Monty. Lagonis is down to 58 health, but without that utility, it could be difficult to find the rest of his hit points. I'm not sure exactly how they stand for Vulcan canisters or where they are at the minute, but they could be critical when it comes to holding this shield back. But at the minute, Lagonis is up above and just trying to rotate, trying to push elsewhere. I don't know if it's going to come down to a hatch drop, but Resets just trying to get a little bit of attention on this side as he knocks the barbed wire. Nesk manages to knock Dots out, finding himself a kill, and that leaves us 20 seconds. Liquid, got to get moving.
15 seconds with the numbers advantage. You feel like they should be able to get it over the line here. There's still an EE1D to go. The last Grims have come out as well, but there's fire impeding them, so they've got to run through the fire, and that is never a great way to do it. Through the fire and the flames, they will cook, as will W7M. A 3v1, and by the looks of it, Palu, I know he's having a good game, but not good enough to overcome that with only 5 seconds on the clock. W7M shuts Liquid out.
Yeah, I think Liquid are going to be sort of left scratching their heads, really, as to how they've lost that one. They're in a 5 versus 3, but I think it was that late rotate. It was the utility, exactly that. They couldn't push where they wanted to, so then with 20 seconds, 30 seconds left to go, you've got the Monty up above, which is not where you want them. You want them pushing into sight and creating that space, thinking about getting a plant down. It wasn't happening for Liquid. I don't hate the call. You can't just brute force your way through things. If it's not happening, it's not happening. Sometimes you've got to make the decision to go elsewhere, but it just left them having to then take risks. When you're so short a time, you've no option. We saw it with the Grim just having to run in through the fire. They've no idea what they're running into at that point. They don't know that there's somebody hard left, and it's just W7M using that defensive utility well and creating a situation whereby Liquid are squeezed for time and they couldn't get the job done. So W7M, a good defense there to level things up 4-4, and there's very little to separate these two at the minute, both having good passage as a play.
Yeah, and I think the main thing to stress here is, like, this is why time is such a valuable resource in Siege, and why you'll often hear teams, casters, whoever, celebrating when players waste 45 seconds out on their own but don't get a kill or do anything like that. And it looks like, well, what have they done? All right, they killed a drone and got back. Was that really worth it? And the sheer fact that you're slowing a team down, if they get to a situation like that where they've got a numbers advantage but no idea what's happening on site because drones are all dead, they're out of time essentially, you, even if 1 or 2 players are alive, can really slaughter and stop an attack by knocking the diffuser down. With time being down to 0, you win the round by default. So always keep an eye on that clock. If a team's going especially slow, they will get punished for it. Now, here's an interesting change-up because Maya's over onto the Thermite and it's Nest's turn on the Deimos. That's not what this team normally does. But Maya's absolutely seething right now that Nesk has taken that one away from him. But let's see what he can cook.
I reckon Nesk will be all right on the Deimos.
I think he'll be all right.
I think he'll probably be pretty good. Maya's going to be going in looking to get this exothermic off, but no, it's not. He's gone for the wrong side. It's always a bit of a gamble for the Bandit when you've got 2 walls to go at. You don't know exactly where, but you've got very little time to choose. You can't really wait to see where the exothermic appears, because if you do, you're going to miss it. You're going to get hit by that explosion whilst you're trying to put your battery down, so you just got to pick one and commit. Dots, unfortunately for him, picks incorrectly, but Resets just takes a ton of damage there as he gets hit through the window. That's going to leave him with some serious missing HP. 38 is going to be the cost, and needs to be careful through the rest of the round.
He does. Tracks it on towards the castle, but at this point you aren't going to go chasing him down when there's 5 left up. Hell no, that'd be suicide. Main thing really to look at there is there are 4 other players alive that can catch you as you're trying to isolate and target down the one operator you've got a track on. It's why personally I think actually that Deimos is really effective later in the round. I know early it's useful and it's great for forcing roamers away from certain areas of the map, for example. I much prefer it when you're coming into an execute, when you've got a player pinned down, because that little bit of info you've got is super valuable. It's why teams like BDS lean so heavily into something like a Dockerbeam, is to be able to punish teams and use that information in the execute to ensure that you're the one hitting the shots first and they're the ones coming in at a disadvantage. The Bandit's already fallen down, but now Palu also dangerously low, as is Maya. Not looking good in the HP front, Tim, but it's all good in the kill feed.
Yeah, Resets has been aware of this player on Rocket Stairs for the longest time here. It's Lobin now who's low health on the mirror, but how about that pre-fire? Slams him with the Vector, and W7M again are fighting from almost beyond the grave, Des. How many times are they going to do this when the round looks won and they fight their way back into it? 2 versus 3. If they can get Lobin picked back up, the diffuser is down, of course, but they've got time. They need to find kills. They see the man. Can Lobin move around? It's Ring Around the Roses. He gets the kill. 1v2. They've got to do something about it. They've got to.
Time. Enough time to play with here, but they need to win this one out. Someone's got to start sticking it, and sure enough, he will. He's only got to get them down, but he finds him in the kneecaps. Removes his knees from him, puts him on his backside, and W7M stick the defuse. What an exciting post-plant that was.
Absolutely brilliant stuff from W7M. I love the communication at the end there. Lobin saying, you've got Monty pushed outside. There's a goo mine in his leg. Just push him. Just get aggressive. I'm going to hit the diffuser. There was 8 seconds left. They didn't have a choice. Lobin had to stick it, but it was brilliant stuff to deal with the shield, and I called it. W7M again from almost beyond the grave. They keep getting to the point where it looks like the round is going to go in Liquid's favour, where it looks like Liquid are on top of things. 5 versus 3, and W7M still find a way. They are making this so difficult for Liquid right now.
Ooh, have I been sleeping on W7M, Tim? Everyone was so excited about Liquid coming into it because they topped the league, and in Brazil they were top dog quite literally. Beating out teams like Furia, who many looked at and said, oh, is it time for their revenge tour? Apparently not, because it's not even here at the major. Seems like W7M here. There's FaZe, who seemingly are always a contender to win any tournament they go to. And for Liquid, I think, again, there's a lot of excitement about them, but now you're starting to wonder which of those 3 Brazilian teams could be the winners. I think it's fair to say, Tim, all 3.
Oh, they're all certainly staking a claim. There's no 2 ways about it at the minute. If you look at it as regions, who's performing the best?
Brazil.
Definitely.
Through and through.
Yeah, 100% at the moment. There's plenty of time for that to change. Let's not forget, we're only inside of Swiss. When things happen, like you start getting on main stages, there's a crowd there, there's all sorts of other things happening. Look, you get surprises, you get upsets. When you get into those final teams, anybody is capable of beating anybody. But right now, the smart bets are going to be hedging towards the Brazilians because they are looking great.
Hard to see a way to beat them at the minute, to be fair. Not impossible. We've seen it happen, but just difficult. Very, very difficult. We're going this once again. We're rocking the Monty, as we've constantly said. He is the go-to Monty player, the designated shield bearer for this team. And Maya is back on the Dame. I've said to him, Ness, you've had your fun for 1 round. I want it back now. And that's exactly where he stepped himself into. I'll say it again, keep an eye out for the late round if he does manage to keep himself alive. It's where you've really seen him come to his own. Smoke being thrown out, though, is going to at least impede away the Monty for a short amount of time. Can he recover that without exposing himself? I'm not too sure he can. Feels a bit too risky to do just that, but for now, it is keeping the attackers at bay. There is still over half a round still to play, though, Tim.
Maybe doesn't need to. Could potentially leave it in. I think he's more bothered about it being shot out. It is still going to do the same job. It's going to hold them back. It maybe just doesn't catch that bit of damage that he could have been hoping to do. Lagonis is already down to 44 HP, so there was potentially an opportunity just to eat away at a little bit more of that, as he does there, down to 20. That could be 14 had there been another tick from the second canister that he threw, but it's really not the end of the world. We've got the Deimos track coming in from Maya. Had very little success, to be fair, so far. Dores does manage to find Nesk. Volps onto resets. W7M, they're looking like they're starting to cruise a little bit. Liquid need a hero right now. Lagonis and Palu, they're going to start fighting for the title as they find 1 apiece and try to get something going inside a site. 2 versus 3.
He's still got 2 EE1D scans here. Palu, like, that should be coming out way before this point, but he's held on to it in favour of trying to go for the kills itself. Guman removed, 2 full HP members on the other side, and now out comes the EE1D. I really feel that would have been far more valuable as the team is starting their push forward, though.
Just going to be holding this tight angle at the moment, knowing that Palu's going to have to push in, and as he does, it is as easy as that for Lobin. Steps around with the shotgun, gets his man, and that is going to be that for another round. W7M managing to lock it out, and they are now cruising towards a potential win on layer 6-4.
They're looking good, and understandably a Liquid timeout comes in. They can't use it at any other point, so it may as well be now. I always tend to feel a little bit worried when teams are calling in tack timeouts when your back's against the wall when it's already match point. Because as I often say, the defenders here of W7M only have to be right once. Catch a Monty not watching the right angle, or get a lucky C4 into someone coming out of spawn. And that is the game basically wrapped up, whereas Liquid have got to be right in every single decision they make for the next 2 rounds. W7M just have to trip them up as they run past, and it's as simple as that. Job done. Lair goes their way. Not forgetting, this was Team Liquid's map picked him.
That's the big problem that Liquid face right now, is the fact that they've picked Lair. They've come here hoping to get themselves off to a good start. They've then got to go to W7M's choice to Nighthaven Labs, and it's not an easy map to win on, especially if you're against a team that loves it. It's a big map. There's a lot to do there. There's a lot of angles to worry about. And if you're a team that's confident, if you're a team that chooses to go there, that's got the game plan, it can be very difficult to play against. And Liquid, they're going to have a tough mountain to climb if they don't get this done here on Lair. And I think the crowd will have been fairly split to begin with. I think there'll have been plenty of people back in W7M, but Liquid always have a very big following with a very big expectation to come away with wins, and we're going to see whether they can overturn this one. But right now, there's no more mistakes. W7M, one more defense will get it done for them.
These are the 2 holes that were opened at the back in round 1 that I remarked on, by the way, because often actually those walls that have been opened and left soft here with the rotation holes in are normally reinforced off, and sometimes you'll even see a mirror placed on them. This one of the one towards the top side that you can see at the top of your screen. Whereas these are left open here. Thank you very much, Nova, for your chance to see exactly what that cut looks through. So more when someone starts pressing in, they get a nice cut through the top floor, but you also get one back in reverse too. So keep an eye on that. I don't think you'll see it become a massive part of this round, given where the site is, but when you see it up on that top floor, I do think it really changes how that site gets played out.
I love this from Dordes. Just getting aggressive up onto that door. Seeing if he can get an opportunity. Nothing's going to present itself, but W7M just happy to take the risk. They know they've got a couple of rounds to have an attempt at getting this done. A couple of rounds in the bank, if you will, and nothing comes of it, but I can't hate the player for trying. See if you get any joy. Resets taken down to 11 health already, Des. Already a tough point for Liquid to work from.
Was it a shotgun blast to the face? Nearly brought him down to that level. I'm pretty sure it was. And at this point, Dots, I know he's had a rough go of things since we had the rehost come in. It's 0-4. He finds himself, of course, across the game himself doing much better than that, but he struggled to find himself in the last few rounds. That side swap can do a lot to change a player's fortunes, to be fair. And Liquid, I think, are starting to burn down now. They know they've gone through that first minute, still getting themselves set up in position to start thinking about what a hit can look like here. Nothing else, I'd be more worried about the roamers around the map, like you can see up here, for example. This castle up on the top floor is certainly going to be a point of concern. You've also got Vault set on the Legion up here at the same time. They really need to force these guys away before they can start thinking about going towards the site itself. Maya being found out, that's a real stinger, because against him, he's on that deadly Deimos.
Maya's been so quiet today, and you can see the impact that it's having on Liquid's attack. It was driving them yesterday, but not today. Resets down on low health is not going to help either.
It's nice C4.
Dash managing to take down Lagonis, and you've got to say it looks like this is going W7M's way at this point. 5 versus, I was going to say 3, but it's really 5 versus 2 and a bit, as Resets can only take 1 bullet, so he's got to be very, very careful when and where he chooses to take these fights, and W7M are playing it smart at the minute, Des. They're not getting aggressive. They're just keeping themselves inside of sight, holding their angles. They're going to let their utility do the job for them as much as they can.
Flash coming in front of them here as well. On the swing, Nest baited that one out perfectly from Lobin. One more sat in tight here as well. I think that bounces back, so that's maybe not quite ideal. He's still dug in here. I don't think they know at this point. Now they definitely know. And the other side of it, there's one waiting. There's 2 of them here. Another flash comes on through. One's on his backside. Nesk is really pulling his team back into it, but he's now taken down. Resets is injured, and Palu's got to do it against 2.
We know that he's capable. 1v2 sprays through the wall. Can't quite find his man, but does do some damage. Does he manage to find the headshot onto the Warden? Palu pushing through. Yes, boy. He does. 1v1. 15 seconds left to find this kill. Dordes full health, though. Steps out, finds him through the rotate and takes him down. And that's going to be W7M taking Lair.
And again, not their map pick. Liquid opted to come into this. They're the ones who walk away empty-handed. It means Labs waits for us next. I'm sure Liquid will feel very happy going to Labs as well. But it does now start to play in the back of your mind. W7M are 1-0 up. One more map, and they'll secure themselves a spot in our live quarterfinals in this case, on Friday.
Yeah, they will go and join their countrymates FaZe, who, of course, already qualified with a win against Falcons earlier. But W7M, I won't say that it was necessarily comfortable. It was a very good game between the two, to be fair. It was close. It could have gone either way, but Liquid just really went off the boil in that second half. Those last few rounds, they certainly weren't up to the same sort of speed, and I don't know, kind of looking at the body language, it maybe looks a little bit dejected there for Liquid, and maybe a little bit of frustration creeping in towards the end of there.
A little bit, but I think the players are still walking away smiling and all heading off for a little bit of a chat. They look all right about it. They know that there's still a long way to go, and things are hardly ever decided in one map. With best of threes, that's the beauty of it. It's about performance over 2 or 3 maps that you've really got to deliver and be consistent. W7M look great, but will that carry on if we get into labs?
We say so often, this is their map pick. They go into the other team's map pick, and, like we say, ultimately, you've got to be capable of doing everything, Des. You've got to be capable these days of playing everywhere, and Liquid, they're going to have a good labs as much as they're going to have a good everything else, so I'm sure it'll still be competitive, but W7M definitely winning the mental game and taking the momentum with them.
That's exactly it. And I think overall, in terms of top performance that stand out for me, Palu had one hell of a series, as we mentioned, right? Sat at 14-8 here, as you can see in the screen. Great timing on that one, Richard. And on the other side, there was a few players that really got themselves into double digits, but we touched on him in the game itself. Maya, the one player that was really stepping back, that you really want to see getting up there and getting busy, is that player that can have such a massive impact. When he's had a quiet first map, you're really hoping now builds himself back in for map 2.
Yeah, if you remember, I said, I think it was after round 4, round 5, Palu was 8-2, and I said they really need others on the team to be stepping up and getting themselves warm, because otherwise they're going to find themselves sitting on the sidelines for the majority of this game, and I think that's the summary story really there when we look at it. Palu head and shoulders above, everybody else kind of struggled to get going with it, and that's hurt Liquid in the long run. By contrast, you look across, Dodes, Lobin, Volps, 3 of them all chipping in, all at the same level, and W7M finding success with that. So I think going into labs, Liquid really need to be thinking, how do we get everybody else engaged? We need to be backing Palu up here.
I think in a way, it sounds weird to compare the two because Lair is a bigger map, but Nighthaven plays in a similar way. You've got these 3 floors to work through, lots of vertical destruction that you can employ, and it's more about the time-wasting efforts as you work down towards the basement that I'm really excited to see how both teams approach that aspect of the gameplay. I think from what we saw there, it was probably quite fair to say that Liquid had the better show of things on the defense in terms of wasting time, but W7M's showing they've got that extra layer in the tank where they can go a little bit quicker, they can play slow if they need to, but they know how to unravel this Liquid side. Yeah,
just a bit more variety, essentially. A few more options, a few more plans, and Liquid, as I said, a team certainly, not short of those, but they just need to show us. They just need to bring it out in that next map.
And speaking of that next map, it'll be here in a few minutes' time. For now, we'll cut to a break and we'll catch you guys in just a few. welcome back to this second best of 3 of the day here on the B stream. We are already one map in, Tim. I'm sure there's some of you joining us a little bit late. In case you missed it, W7M have, I wouldn't say dismantled, but quite handedly dispatched of Team Liquid on Team Liquid's map pick of Lair. Now going into labs.
I mean, it was a good performance from both teams, but W7M did look good doing it. That's I think, the way that I would put it. Yeah, Liquid were definitely there. They were competitive. It certainly wasn't an easy game for W7M, but they just, particularly for me on the attack, they just brought a bit more than Liquid. They had those multiple angles. They made it difficult for Liquid. They did the unexpected. They kept them guessing, and they took advantage of opportunities as well. And it really did pay dividends, where I feel like Liquid, we saw a couple of times sort of trying to relocate, trying to adapt, trying to rotate attacks because it just wasn't happening, and there was no real secondary option that worked out for them. So I think W7M maybe just a little bit of a broader playbook there.
Yeah, and I think a big one for me as well is like looking at how things have shaped up. Like Liquid didn't really look too bothered at the end of the map walking away. There were smiles, there were arms around the shoulders. They were like, cool, it's not the end of the world, because for this game, it's a 2-0 game. If you win, you qualify. That's it. Your week's over. You can now chill out until Friday. But it's more for the others where things then become a bit of a concern, because you've still got to carry on playing best of 3s tomorrow, the day after, if it requires it, to keep on battling your way through. You'd rather have things wrapped up now and not have to worry about that potential of not making it on Friday. You can kick back, do all the prep work that you need to for Friday, and make sure you're nice and relaxed.
That's it. I mean, this is the bonus. This is the reward for going 2-0, isn't it? You're in that nice position whereby you can come into this game. There's not an awful lot of pressure on it. Yeah, it's great. If you win it, you get straight through to the quarterfinals. Everything's good. You can spend your time relaxing and prepping. Great stuff. If not, you get another chance tomorrow. You get another chance the day after. You've got to this point as quick as anybody could do, and you've given yourself every opportunity from there. So, yeah, they certainly don't need to be sweating just yet.
That's it. I mean, Liquid are already all in the lobby. I can see on our screen over here. They're already ready to go. We're waiting on W7M at this point, because looking like, right, that team sort of back in, locked in, ready to go. Whereas for the other side, it's kind of like that, like ring walk in boxing, just kind of saying, you just sit there and sweat a little bit.
You wait for a couple of hours.
Yeah, you worry yourself
Don't
a
worry,
little
we
bit.
won't keep you a couple of hours.
We'll press the cast to start game button in a minute.
Not yet.
I've got 2 players in the lobby there. When they're in there fully, of course, we'll start the game, and then we'll see if this ends up being a 2-0, or if it does require that third map. And being honest with you, Tim, the idea, the prospect of a Clubhouse as map 3, I think it's actually really exciting, because Clubhouse, I think, is where all good series need to end.
I'd love to see it.
It's such a classic map.
It is a classic map, and it's a very good map. You know, you look at it's one of the maps that has been there for a long time. It's been there for a long time for good reason, and it's because, especially after that rework, which is a long time
Someone was
ago
talking about this the other day and saying, do you remember back when the top floor had that separation?
Rotate across the top floor, and all sorts of stuff changed, and ever since then, I feel like, Clubhouse for me is one of the best maps. I love watching it. I love playing it. There's nothing really sort of bad about it.
I just swear, I can't get wrapped into a cycle of that, Oregon, and Villa in ranked anymore. It's all ever... If it's not that, it's Coastline.
I play quite a lot of Night Evan Labs.
Do you?
Yeah,
it gets banned all the time.
Right.
Banned all the time.
Need to get in the stack. That's
what do you think is the most hated? When you look at like your experience of bans in rank, what do you say is the most hated map? For me, it's Sky. People always... I love Sky. People
Emerald
always ban
Plains,
Sky.
Always immediate...
That's crept view. And I played Outback twice before I came out here, and I was like, I don't want to play this anymore.
Never mind.
I'm done playing this game. Let's go and talk about people playing instead of playing.
Outback draws a lot of bans in my games.
For good reason.
Emerald Plains draws a lot of bans. Unfortunately, Lair still does, and I think it's just the curse of the new. It's, people haven't learned it, don't want to play. But Lair is a good map, and I enjoy it. But yeah, we don't always see too much of Lair.
What I always love is, like, by virtue of the fact that no one else understands it as well, everyone sets up a good time. Like, let the chaos reign. Let it sing on through. That's what it's all about. Well, there we go. Enough chatter and jabber and yapping. It's time for us to get into Night Haven Labs, our second map in this best of 3. And if it's required, Clubhouse awaits us afterwards. However, I think W7M look like they're pretty on it in that last map. We mentioned the attacking half looking particularly good for them. Well, they start on the attack here as well. So if they walk away with 3 rounds, I think Liquid are going to start to sweat.
Yeah, I was going to say it's really important that Liquid come out with a good start on the defense here, but I've got a feeling, we'll see how it plays out, but I've got a feeling that Liquid might head up to the top floor as their first defensive site. I haven't looked at the stats specifically for top floor, but what I always say about top floor is it is a difficult one for teams to hold on to, simply because it's very tough to play a roam game. It's very tough to get away from the site and to have any impact anywhere around the map. Often we see basement having good defenses because a lot of time can be burnt elsewhere. layer, you can keep people busy all the way up in IT, around warehouse, storage, and you can make life difficult. That's not really the case for the top floor, so let's just keep an eye on that and see what happens, maybe in round 1, or at least the first time Liquid do defend that top floor. But our bans rain on through. A couple of differences there, particularly the Ram and the Clash.
Interesting choices there to close things out. I mean, the Ram, I think, I completely understand. Again, I mentioned at the end of Lair, the maps aren't too dissimilar. They are quite sizable. Lair is a little bit bigger, but
a lot of vertical long laps.
Exactly. There is a lot of soft flooring that Ram can really go to town on and make it really effective to attack vertically. It will mean, I think, for both teams, they're leaning towards things like the Buck, which I think both teams will say they're very happy playing. I mentioned that Maya is sort of the new Buck main in town on this team, whereas historically, it was always Palu. We've got to see a little bit of that from him back on the last map. However, we'll see what their Buck play looks like in the second half, because for now they start on the defense as mentioned. W7M are going to try and crack this egg wide open and get a good half on the way.
I'm seeing 2 hard breachers already lined up on the side of W7M, and that leans into what I was going to speak about. How do you attack this site? What are W7M going to do here? And I think this leans into W7M's wheelhouse perfectly. I was speaking about the site and how you're kind of restricted to defending from site because you can't have too much of an impact from below. I'm not saying it's not possible, but we don't tend to see too much of it. So W7M, though, back on layer, one of their big positives was pushing from multiple sides, was creating little surprises for Liquid when they were on the attack. So they've got the ability to do that here. They've actually taken away the thermite as I've been speaking. They've gone for the knock instead. It still kind of leans into that. They may well go for a little crouch walk and a little backstab somewhere, but I was interested to see them maybe open up multiple angles, get IT, get connector wall, maybe push somebody to top fish, really surround this place and make it difficult for Liquid to focus on where the problems are coming from. They're likely going to want catwalk as well, but as I said, might just go for a little crouch walk in. It's the knock that does, but no, doesn't check his corners, and Dash is going to be punished.
We've seen a few times like this over the tournament so far, of like drones just not double checking corners, of Monty's getting sprayed down for free, and all kinds of shenanigans. And I think Dash just learned that he was going to double check every corner for the rest of this tournament. Paying the price there. I find this will denied away at least for a little bit longer. It's again more of the stall tactics. I think we're going to see more of this as the tournament reigns on as well. Being able to slow teams down really does feel like the key to success at the moment.
Sophia just going to clear off that Soto canister from below, and we will see IT wall getting breached. Just a little bit more work needed in order to do it, so that it is an actual maneuverable breach, but they've got the viewpoint that they needed, and you can see the effect that that has had on Liquid. It pushes them all back to the right of your screen, all back on into sight. They're going to try to keep hold of catwalk, but lose their head, peeking Nest. And Palu trying to push that door as well. Going to punish them. Maya and resets there, though, to restore the balance for Liquid. 3 versus 2.
That timing then as well. Dots have done so much work. Charge again, and here comes Volps. It doesn't matter what you put this guy on, he's going to find kills one way or another. Diffuser is down, but they're the ones who've got control of the site, it feels like here. And as long as he's mindful of what's off towards his left and the threat of this mirror window, I feel they'll be completely fine to recover this diffuser and start getting set up for a play. They've got 60 seconds in which to do it, Tim, as well. That is ages in siege time.
Yeah, he sees everybody ahead of him, just needing to be careful here. Maybe wait until he's got a bit more support, until the Zafir is in place, locked and loaded, ready to go. Lobin there manages to get that perfect support, and that is how you play a 2v2 when you've got a Monty on the attack. Lobin just getting there as quickly as he could. The Monty just biding his time, waiting for that support to come along. Lobin just waits for that attention to go towards the shield and gets the kills. Great stuff from W7M. I said that Liquid might struggle to hold on to that top floor site. They have, and they're going to move away to tank and assembly down to the basement. They don't want any more of that top floor here in round 2. W7M, they did a good job, to be fair. It wasn't easy for them when they lost the knock straight off the rip, because they were hoping to open IT and pressure connector as well, have a presence inside of electrical, and make it really tough for Liquid to move around in sight. And it wasn't something that they managed to achieve, but they still got the job done. And that, for me, is really one of the key characteristics of what we've seen for W7M so far. Okay, this isn't working. How do we achieve that round? How do we get the job done? And they generally have an answer.
Well, this really needs to be, again, wasting time territory for Liquid here. You can play the full map if you want and then fall back down into the basement a little bit later on. Concern really is going to be how effective at W7M at hunting you down. I thought we might see a Jackal coming out again, similar to what we saw back on Lair for a short amount of time. Instead, it's the Deimos and the Blitz coming together. Now, of course, if the Deimos gets the track onto an enemy that's out around the map, guess where Blitz is going? Straight at that enemy. And this is where Liquid have got to be careful. You can overdo it on the roam. You can overcook a little bit, Tim, and find yourself burnt to a crisp when the enemy team just collapse all around you. So that's what I'm keeping an eye on here. Do they manage to catch someone out, or do Liquid manage to waste a bit of time but slip their way back towards site when it's most important? Speaking of,
just spotting out Lagonis there, going in for the challenge, but how about that? Lagonis wheels 180, takes dots down, he had to slam the brakes on, he was running across that gap, but decided, no, I'm taking this challenge, and took down the Blitz, and already this has been such a better round for Liquid, and look at where the kills have been coming, Des, all around the map, and that is why I said that top floor might be difficult for them. When they're downstairs and they can play those extensions, they are so much better off for it.
I was going to say, Nesk is still up on the second floor, which would have been a point of concern for them, but he's found Volts. And that was really your main key to winning that round, taken offline. And the Deimos means closing up the final one is no bother at all. Good response, though, and Liquid playing out around the map, as I mentioned, looking to waste time, and I've got to give it to Lagonis. That was one hell of a shot onto the Blitz.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. Not only is it a shot onto the Blitz, it's above the counter as well. That counter in Kitchen has got like a concrete half wall on top of it, and you've just got Blitz's little head poking up above there, and Lagonis just absolutely wheeled onto him and removed it from his shoulders. Brilliant stuff for Liquid to level things up, but it doesn't solve the problem of the top floor, Des. In all honesty, I'd have personally preferred to see Liquid maybe go to storage or something. Even a Kitchen. We don't see the pros play Kitchen too often. They much prefer the storage side. I'm always a little bit shaky on the storage because you've got that opportunity to plant just inside of that external window, so it can be a little bit rough to hold on to. But I just feel like a lot of Liquid's success there came from fighting around the map, came from taking the fight to W7M, and it's not something they can do in the same way here. They're going to be penned in again. It's going to be down to W7M to drive this round and to decide where the action's going to happen, and I feel like that suits W7M better. But Liquid, if they can get it held on to, it puts them in a really good position.
It's pretty fair to say Lagonis didn't expect to get into an engagement so early in that round. He was more looking to waste a bit of time and just got lucky and walked away with his one, so fair play. No real big complaints. In this round, as you say, though, it's back on the top floor, makes things a little bit more simple for W7M to work their way through. Changed away a couple of their operators as well, of course, really focusing on getting the IT breach opened up here and want to make sure they can do so in good time. That's why the Thatcher is on side here, to make sure they can get through the wall and not have to worry about playing that dance with death that can sometimes be a 2-brow stack with a Bandit or a Kaid, and before you know it, you've lost a minute and a half trying to get a wall open, and it's endlessly frustrating. So the right sort of idea here, I think, in prioritising getting the right things opened up, so maybe they aren't so time sensitive when it comes down to the last 30 or 45 seconds.
Expecting the FNAT up above them there as they move towards that catwalk door, but as it was triggered, we saw the couple of shots come on through the door. It's just one of those that you give it a whirl, see what you get, but the answer for Liquid in that case was nothing. We're going to see this IT wall getting opened up. No major problems there for W7M. This time around, as I spoke about the lack of the thermite last time, they have brought the thermite this time. So I would expect to see them push towards getting connector wall opened as well. The Thatcher can go and assist with that potentially. Get that done. Get on in there. Pressure pillar, pressure IT, and really shut down that entire side of site.
They've got a drone in here, so they know what's going on. Maybe could even just shoot out the actual charges themselves, just like this, and not have to worry too much about changing around and getting the Thatcher over here as well. Although he is on the roof, it probably would have been a bit easy just to chuck an EMP, but that's beside the point, Tim. Wall should get itself opened up here, all no problem at all. And that will force away the last man of Liquid back in towards site. And as I say that, the first kill comes through. It's taken us a good, 105 seconds to see that kill come through. So it's a bit of a slower round, but W7M are slowly starting to get open what they need, and Liquid are starting to bite back.
Ness getting aggressive onto that catwalk angle there, just looking down the length of it. You can see the exothermic is going to be placed on that wall between pillar and connector, and this is what will start to open the site up for W7M now. It's going to be very difficult. Liquid, they can't really play inside of pillar and server. They can't really play inside of IT. It looks like they are going to try and stick it for the time being with the Legion, but it's going to be a tough spot to hold on to for long. There you go.
Great shot.
Thank you very much.
Resets drop the hatch as soon as the wall got open. It's coming up behind them here. He could be a little bit of a thorn in the side if they're not careful. And sure enough, finds the long angle and it's found one. But is it too little? Too late? Maybe not. Dodes is down. Volt's in a 1v1. Against Resets. Knows where he's coming from. Oh my god, he's found it as well. Resets with a miraculous flank. As I mentioned, he dropped that hatch and I thought, okay, are we playing for C4 denials today? No. So they're going for a lobby flank, and look at that, striking through, finding two, and winning his team the round. Beautiful stuff.
Really unfortunate timing for Volps at the end there. We've all been in that situation when you've got the utility in your hand, you strafe around the corner, and it's all over. Good night. Liquid, they do a good job to hold on to that site. That was the site that I picked out that was going to be difficult for them, and it looked like it was going to be again. This time with the thermite, like I said, W7M made it very, very difficult for them to play anywhere inside a site. They managed to get themselves a good flurry of kills, but Liquid, they weren't scared. They stood up to it, and they did really well to hold on to that round. Like you say, movement, particularly from Resets, just changing things up and getting those kills helped to get them over the line. So this time it's going to be a third choice site for Liquid. It is going to be storage, as I discussed, so that plant spot is generally the focus. It's just inside of the storage window behind the pillar on the right hand side of the screen. Thank you very much, Nova. They've got the barbed wire there to prevent it. I like to see that floor opened up sometimes just to again make the attackers think about it. You can play it from below inside of assembly, you can get the angle from below, you can play it up here in IT. You've got to hold on to one of them. It doesn't hurt to try both, because again it's going to stretch the attackers. They have to clear above, they have to clear below, because you can hold on from either side. As it is, we'll see where W7M choose to push from, but Liquid at the minute are looking to hold on from above.
That that we haven't seen all that much of today. I spoke about it for BDS an awful lot already during our game earlier on today, but for Dokkaebi, I think she's just so fantastic. Of course, calls all 5 operators on the other side. There's no mute on side to negate that off, so at least for a few seconds you do get a full idea as to what's going on. Paired it with a blitz, and sometimes even a Deimos, makes things really, really interesting and very difficult to be able to deal with as the defenders. So, as long as W7M get themselves in the right positions here and then make the Dokkaebi call sing out, that's when you're going to start seeing some real damage coming on through, where the chaos begins, where there's a lot of noise, and of course the attackers therefore have the advantage.
If you remember at the end of Layer, I said that Liquid really needed others to be getting in there and supporting Palu with the kills, doing some of the heavy lifting, and that has happened so far. Resets and Maya are going well, but this round is going to be Nesk and Palu getting involved as well. W7M get a couple of kills, but right now Dots is trying to do it all alone. That's going to be a second kill for the Blitz, and it brings us back to a 2v2, Des.
Is the HP available here, though, for both of these attackers? Full HP defenders, half HP attackers. Not super ideal. I know that the defender guns are generally a little bit weaker, but 2 or 3 bullets will be enough here, assuming, of course, they don't smash him in the head as soon as it comes down to it. And as I've said so many times before, Tim, they've got a round and a half to play with, which is a lifetime in Siege time. As long as they play it sensibly, make use of the drones they've got, the utility in back pocket, like the smokes they've got, there's a lot they can work with.
Did you say Siege time?
Oh, did Tim?
It definitely is Siege time.
It's all, every day is Siege time,
We're
Tim.
slap bang in the middle of Siege time right now. Dots, he's going to be working over towards the reception side. See if he can have any more impact with that shield. It's already 2 kills on the round, and how about this? Lobin's managed to creep past that goo mine and does
Great
not.
2v1.
However, fool Lagonis, who steps around the corner, finds his man. Palu picks up Dots, and that is going to be another round for Team Liquid, and they are looking great as it stands.
I caught up with Doki earlier, and he was saying of just 2 or 3 times in that game I've been domed through a soft wall from a single DMR shot, and I'm like, how? Probably similar conversation there, or at least a thought going through the Blitz's mind as the spray just comes through on the soft wall and finds him in the head. Unfortunate. W7M calling their attack timeout. They're down 3-1, Tim, and it's definitely not the attacking prowess they showed back on the previous map. They are struggling to get much done here.
It's looking at the moment like we are screaming ever closer to that potential decider on Clubhouse that I think everybody would love to see, to be honest, between these two. We know that it's going to be a great map. It leans towards Liquid a little bit potentially, especially if they take the second here on that Haven Labs. We know that Liquid are a very capable Clubhouse side, and it's not one that we see W7M playing as often. Certainly not as high a preference for them. Liquid, I think they're going to be very, very keen to see Clubhouse if they can get this done. 3-1 at the minute, heading back down to the basement. And honestly, with the way things have gone, I think this has got to be at least a 4-2 for Liquid. I think they held on to basement without a single problem last time around. It's going to be that top floor that is the question. Can they hold on to it again? If they can, it could be a 5-1 half, and they could really run away with this.
They'll be pretty content, I think, regardless of how things... Well, that's a life. If it goes 3-3, they'll be absolutely distraught. But W7M are the ones that have now got a game plan. And already I know it's a bit early to talk about hovers, but the Deimos and the Dokkaebi are a combo that we've seen spoken about an awful lot this week. Fresh has been speaking about it. We spoke about ourselves an awful lot. Seeing Lion and Deimos coming together, or Deimos and Dokkaebi. It just helps take away some of the risk or the concern of Deimos when you have another operator like that on side, where you're not being baited into the one operator that you're able to track out on the other side. By the looks of it, though, they are swapping away from that, so that risk is reintroduced, but Deimos still plenty strong as an operator in his own right. It's got to be a little bit more cautious when moving through the map.
The entry
game. You've got
game,
Vigil to chase down here as well in Nest.
Yes, well, that's why I was bringing up the entry game. It's looking good for Liquid at the minute. 3 out of 4 going in their favour. And something like Nesk on a Vigil is always going to help you in the entry department as well. He's going to keep himself as slippery as possible. He's on the Bosch G and just really wants to make life a nuisance. We see the EMP come in. The Bandit battery already being placed. He's going to get both here.
Oh
absolutely
no.
Beautiful stuff there from Resets. It's just... I love to see Bandit tricking. I think it's, you know, a brilliant art form, really, to time it just right. It can be very difficult when you're trying to work with EMPs, particularly now that Bandit, and he has been able to for a while, can place multiple charges on one wall and doesn't have to take one away like he used to. It's really, really great to see because it makes it so much more viable, and we've just seen there an absolute ton of utility denied away. No more Selma charges available. No hard breach on the side. Sorry, just one set of secondary hard breach from the Ying, but now you're choosing. Do you go for hatches? Do you go for that wall? It's not going to be easy now.
They've got to find his man there. Finally connects onto the head of Maya, taken offline. And they've got the vertical, so now they can look to deny away the Bandit if they want to. However, only one EMP left and no Salmons, as you say. A couple of tin openers to really work with, and that's it. Nesto's kind of found the reverse. Just dome Dodes there. This one, they'd really lost something. Nope, there's always someone else above you ready to capitalize on the damage. Dash now finding himself down. Nesko's having a great time with his Bosch G. 2 kills to himself in the round, and I think at this point, W7M's attack is probably going to fall apart.
Yeah, Ness knows that there's somebody there, of course, having just been fired out. Look at that. Flips over to the SMG secondary and absolutely deletes Dots. Finds a beauty through the barricade and puts Liquid 4 versus 2.
What more can you say? It's just Nesk is being Nest for this round. There's not a lot you can do. Found 3 to himself and Volts and Lobin. Yeah, should have got about a minute to work with here. In a bit of time, they can still make things work, but I don't think they're going to get away with it. They're even aware as well. They're punching in the barricade, far from the quietest thing in the world. They expect someone to be there out on this balcony, and then it's a question of where's the last. But a lot of freedom being offered up towards Liquid here to move around the map, I find. They've got 4 players left against 2, and try as he might, he's not quite going to be able to collect Lobin. One more inside control. Right idea. Sees the man swing out, but they've really got to punish him here. That's a freebie. No, it's not! It's not a freebie, Tim! Lagonis will get traded out, but my God, that's twice this game that he's spun on a dime and just taken the skull of an enemy player.
Absolutely, you look at it and you think Lagonis is banged to rights in that situation, but somehow manages to take one with him. 8 seconds left to go. Resets, cuts down bulbs, and Liquid go 4-1. Kind of what we expected coming down to basement again. As I say, the big questions are going to be answered up on the top floor in the final defensive round. Can Liquid secure a 5-1 half? It's always going to be the toughest site for them to hold on to because they can't take advantage of that roam game like they've just done there. They can't draw W7 into the same fights around the map because they just don't need to go and kill Liquid. It's difficult to have an impact on this site from below. So Liquid, a slightly different game for them to play for this final defense. If they want that 5th round, they're going to have to hold angles. They're going to have to move carefully when walls are opened, and they're going to have to understand where W7M are pushing from and when.
Oh, well, that certainly makes it an interesting end to the half. W7M with the chance to get a second round on the board. If they don't get this, I think they'll start feeling like it's a foregone conclusion that this map is done. And I'm always the first to say 2 halves to a game of Siege. You could see W7M be phenomenal on the defense and not give a single attack over towards Liquid. But I think Liquid just hitting a little bit different on this map so far makes it difficult to expect the W7M to claw their way back in. See how this one plays out for now, though. As you mentioned, Tim, it's up on this top floor. I'm looking really towards the denial game here because we've got 4 C4s on side, Tim, plus a pulse, plus a bulletproof camera. They know what the game plan's going to be.
Well, I said that you don't generally have too much impact from below on this site, and Liquid are certainly set to try and prove me wrong.
Cheeky.
Quick spray through the ceiling from Lobin almost catches them out as well. But they are going to remain safe for the time being. It's resets on the Bandit just in behind that wall. We saw him Bandit tricking earlier. The question is, this is not really something Liquid have done previously on this site, particularly playing with the pulse below. Do W7M find it? Or are they going to get tunnel vision directly in towards site, and then they'll find out quick enough when they start getting hit with nitros?
If he stepped in and found that Bandit off the rip, it would have been absolutely terrifying. But as it stands, the Bandit can still sit here. He can still sit and wait. They've got to get something going underneath to really unsettle him, I think. But it's not looking easy. Like, they've spent a minute or so far dancing around this IT wall. They know that it's critical to the attack to get it opened up because it gives you control of Catwalk. It stops players being inside of IT itself. It's a great way in towards one of the 2 sites too. That's why it's always a big sticking point for them. And sure enough, now Resets is going to be forced to back away. This time round, he won't be able to strip the wall away.
I'm not sure how aware they are of Lagonis all the way down in the basement. Lobin just seems poised at the minute to potentially push down there whilst the work continues towards the top floor. This is the thing W7 need to be careful of, that they don't run out of time by chasing round these roamers, by chasing Lagonis and trying to find a kill onto him. As it is, it looks like he's maybe going to be able to get himself back to site. He can take out the air jab if he chooses to, gets himself across up Aqua Stairs. That's a minute 40 that's going to be wasted there, or a little bit more from Lagonis. I really like that. W7M, they're a little bit behind on time at the minute. They haven't got connector wall open. That's going to be the next job. Resets is there and ready to trick. Will be able to, because there isn't a second EMP, I don't think, either, that's going to follow in. So great stuff from Liquid.
They're trying to go over the top here as well. They get a C4 through the gap. Finding themselves on free thermite. A dash on the other side, but nope. Want to go through here. Was the wrong side. They're electrified. He goes aggressive onto the breach and pays the price. W7M with 35 seconds to go. Have got the numbers advantage, but that clock waits for no one, Tim.
Palu knows that somebody's inside of electrical. Can't find the shots though, as Dots is there, takes him down. W7M looking pretty good at the minute. 24 seconds even with short time. They have got this one done. Lagonis finds one on the nitro. The plant is going down, makes it a second, but no more will come his way as W7M close out the round in a 4-2 half. But I think that Liquid will be more than happy with that start to Labs.
We've got to give full praise to W7M there as well, because I think they played the attack so well, where it was very cautious, and to give it to Liquid, they really wanted to try and catch them by surprise with 2 players, both Resets and Palu, stepping out towards breaches or in towards doorways and hoping to catch W7 off guard, but they were full focus from start through to finish. As soon as they see a pixel change colour, they were in there and collecting scalps all the way through. So good stuff. We get that 4-2 half like you thought we might, Tim. Now what can W7M do on their defense? It's going to be another time-wasting style of set they're going through here with that smoke, with the Bandit that we've seen all through that first half, the Goyo as well. We're going to come down to Liquid and how well they can attack, because back on our previous map of Lair, it was then we felt a little bit short on ideas when it came to their attacks.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have to be different this time around, and this first round is going to be a very good test of that, because we know that W7M will likely get themselves out into the map a little bit. I'm just looking at the lineup. You're going to want to keep your smoke at least downstairs, potentially your Bandit if you're looking to trick any walls, but Valkyrie, maybe a bit of Castle, even your Goyo could all play above at the beginning of the round. That's what we're seeing at the minute, all registering on the first floor. Smoke on the cargo stairs, as we would expect largely. Dash is going to play that position, I would expect, throughout the round. But Liquid definitely going to have their work cut out to chase down all these roamers and make sure they round them all up.
Similar story again. Dokkaebi, Deimos, Monty. We've spoke about it a million times at this point. It feels like a bit foolish to carry on with that endeavour. That's what you expect to see in a good number of these rounds. At least the one part has been opened up. Animus exposed. So I'm going to stop Dots trying to play, though, on towards the other main wall down in this basement. It's not going to try and pull off his best Resets cosplay, essentially, and try and keep the wall locked away when they start trying to push their way forwards. But for now, I imagine the focus is going to be the vertical really coming out of Liquid. A full map clear, very, very common, especially when you've got the Deimos and the Dokkaebi on side. A little bit of performance issues in getting this hatch opened up. There we go, finally it will go on through as the first Dokkaebi call does come out. just in case anyone trying to be a little bit cheeky around the map.
Yeah, it's always a little bit of a tricky one with the Vendetta to open the hatches, but you can get it done, and that will at least give them a little bit of a extra entrance. Now then, Deimos is going to pick up that scan, will be aware of Lobin's position, but isn't really able or ready to be able to take that challenge on immediately, and Lobin just keeps himself active on Aqua Stairs. At the minute, what is he doing? Just goes running up to the door, full sprint, no ADS, and Palu is locked and loaded, ready to go, and finds himself the easiest entry he's going to get all day.
This is the thing, though. Lobin's one of those players. I think about, like, he's the Brazilian equivalent of Sloth over in EU. Likes to play very, very mobile. Doesn't like to sit still for too long. Likes to get out there and try and get busy and try a little bit ratty at points as well and find himself multi-kills in rounds as often as he can. And I think there he's just got a little bit too big for his boots and ultimately paid the price against a very experienced team and very experienced player in Palu, having to take his score for free. Now, 5 versus 4, and Liquid have got this numbers advantage. As long as they play this nice and carefully, they're in a great spot. They've got a Dokumi call on side. They've still got the Deimos scans coming on through. The Monty is still here on full HP. If nothing else, it starts to feel a little bit ropey for W7M. They've got to hold off this onslaught, Tim, for the next 50 seconds.
Twitch drone is just going to be racing around site and trying to pick up any gadgetry that it can. Maya managing to find Volps, not before Dots took down resets, though. Going to be holding on inside near that double wall. Going to be pressured here, though, by the Monty coming in from Exo.
It's about that step forward, though. The Monty is always going to be the one that you look at and just say he's going to be dominating on his step forwards. Palu still upstairs here, dominating in his own right. Down to Dots to make something happen here. No C4 in back pocket. Doesn't get away with it as well. Dodez onto 2 HP. Nothing really that he can do here. Going to get bullied out by the shield. And sure enough, ran down by Lagonis. As Liquid take another round, and they are in full control here on Labs.
Yeah, it's really not good for W7M. Losing that basement defense, that's the one, like I say, that you really look towards. Picking up top floor can be tricky, especially if it gets opened up. It can resemble like a piece of Swiss cheese sometimes, and the attackers really can find angle after angle through that one to dice it up. W7M feel that they don't really have a choice but to give it a go up there. Liquid pretty confident attacking down onto the basement. W7M certainly don't want any more of that heat, so they're going to give it a whirl up on the top floor. Liquid, though, looking very, very comfortable here and could well be moving towards map point at the end of this one.
Just very well structured as an attack, I think. Like everyone's stacking up around Exo, the way that they got themselves the vertical control first as well. Didn't want to give W7M an inch in that round, and sure enough made sure they damn well didn't get it. Of course, can't forget there's no tactical timeout available. W7M took that much earlier in the game when they were down 1 and 3. Now it's got even worse. They're down 5 and 2, Tim. And based on that last round, it could well grow to be 6 and 2, in which case it's a bit of a mountain to climb. And then Clubhouse will await us as map 3.
Prep phase will come to an end then, and we will see exactly which side Liquid will start their push from. They've got the Thermite, they've got the Ace, they've got the Thatcher. Multiple choices there for breaching, which just really tells us ahead of time that they are going to be looking to get connector wall open, which has been done for them. We can see it's been left soft for the time being, so they'll need to be cautious about heading on in there, but they will use a breach, no doubt, to get that external connector wall and just make sure nobody's playing actually inside of that room. It may well be when this goes off that the defenders choose to reinforce pillar. They might want to stay aggressive on there, but it's a choice they're going to have to make.
That's always going to be a big focus, right? But for now, no real control on that side of the map. It's, of course, very early on. Looks to be where they're going to start, though, because you've got the Grim of Maya working his way in. Where most players will start is up on the roof here, so they can rotate across between IT, but also off towards Connector and try and make use of both sides of the map being opened up to exert pressure. Already spoke about the importance of IT. Connector, it opens up once at least you get the main site wall opened up. A great plant spot in behind that main central pillar as mentioned. So that's what you're looking out for here. And on the other side, it's more about the C4s that sit in back pocket, I'd expect, for the Mirror. I thought for a second I saw running downstairs. Could try and cause a bit of bother. Everyone, in fact, it's just the Oryx on the downstairs at the moment. He's the one looking to be a bit of a backstab. I think Oryx is probably a little bit underplayed at the moment when you consider the effectiveness that he has against shields. It's always a risk to go charging into a shield, but it definitely stops the shields from being able to get a bit too brave. Otherwise, they're flat on the back and probably getting picked off by a teammate.
Absolutely that. I mean, without one on side this time, I think looking at ways that you can utilize that space under the site as well. Look at that. It's too cheap.
I told you. The Sloth of Brazil, he's doing it.
Liquid just giving themselves away there. Lobin managing to pick up a double, and Liquid really should have been aware of that. You need to be checking it out. making sure that you're clear underneath the map. They do look to pressure their way in towards Connector here, just mounting the shots, the utility that's all flying in towards Pillar, making sure with the bees that they're not going to get swung from electrical Volps. With a man advantage though, he's feeling brave, thinking about getting on in there and making life even more difficult for Liquid.
Uh-oh, run. There is a smoke. Takes about, what, 68 points of damage there as well. Not ideal, but a real play smoke by Dot, so I'll give it to him there. He's done quite a lot with that. Maya, bit of a demon though in towards Electric. He already had the Grim Bees on it, as you said, to stop anyone pushing through. Real up play from him, and then it's turned around and collected someone even starting to walk through at that point. Now Lagonis has gone down, I believe, to a Guma, and that's not super ideal. A 2v4 for Liquid, and W7M looking to be in control, but look at this, in from the back they come. Logan's going to find one more for himself, surely a second to be collected here, as the pressure on Maya is coming in from both sides, and it is not looking too good.
No, they never dealt with Lobin, and they've paid the price for it here. As I said, usually the lower levels of that map for that site are not really utilised too much. They can be difficult to have an impact from, but Lobin shows us perfectly how it's done. Gets himself ratted away inside of storage on that window, picks up a double, and then comes up to the top floor for the flank at the end when Liquid are short-handed and gets himself a third for the round. Great stuff from the Oryx. And W7M managed to secure at least their first defense. It gives them something to build on, but there is still a long way back for them yet.
And still the threat of a Liquid timeout. Now, last map they took it really late. They took it when they were down 6-4, and I remember saying back then, I'd rather you take it the round early when you've got a little bit more wiggle room to play with. I think if after this next round W7M continue to climb back in, they'll pause it out a little bit, take the momentum out of the sails of W7M, try and figure their way back into this one and how they can get things closed out over the next couple of rounds. Big Heavy kind of slows an R play again here, at least on towards the wall, so real main goal is to keep the main breach closed up. Try and force Liquid into attacking, maybe down Exothermic again. It was a real threat for them last time, and you can see here the rotation of operators, the attacker repick coming in. They're back over to the same lineup they brought along last time. And the Twitch was kind of the quiet pick that we saw come on through. Another Parlu special. Looking towards that, you're looking at the ability to zap out those F-Nats, get rid of the Goo Mines, get rid of the Electro Claws, get rid of the Bandit Batches if you need them. There's a lot that you can do, but of course it really relies on keeping those shock drones alive, and we've seen so many players just lose them so wastefully. Juan was expecting to run into a defender, waiting for those shock drones to come on through.
Yeah, you've really got to try and understand the individual sites, I think, if you're going to be using the Twitch drones, because...
I thought you were about to say understand the psychology of a Twitch player.
I was not. Because of the unlimited distance that the shock drone has got, if you can get a longer angle, if you can find... maybe a point of elevation, somewhere that you can take that gadgetry out without having to go directly into sight. You put your drone at less risk. As it is, going in, a little bit unfortunate there. You found somebody out on the roam. They pick up one of the drones, only one left.
That's it, really valuable. Of course, you have your standard drones that you can make use of, almost to make sure that the way forward for the shock drone is clear, but at this point you can use them also, or you can also use them just as 4 drones if you really want to, and I imagine that's part of the game plan here. That one's now out on the field. Parlu running that one forward to see if it gets picked off. And elsewhere, of course, you can see it's Nesk. His partner in crime, charging his way through the map, hoping to collect someone, unsuspecting of this potential flank coming on through. So far, no one giving up anything.
You can see that there is a mounting presence inside of Kitchen at the minute. 3 out of 5 of the Liquid players are in there. So just trying to get themselves prepared for this push when it comes along. Moving down Exo stairs now tentatively. Nesk is just going to be holding that angle through to make sure nobody peeks. He's looking to basically just pick up a cheap kill on an overzealous defender that decides to go and have a look. The Monty will come down though. This is where the push really begins.
It's the same as last time with the big push down Exo. And running himself out. C4 over the top, but no, gets shot out. Of course, the beauty of LAN, it's much easier to shoot the C4, and they've ran past the angle being held behind them, and have looked directly in towards sight here. Right idea. This one's sitting nice and close, but no, Dash finds him first. Nesk eviscerated. IQ taken off the board.
You can see the Nitro above the door for him there. A smart play from the Kaid because he knew that it would prevent the Monty pushing in. They wouldn't want any part of it, and Lagonis certainly didn't. Taken down. That's the shield gone. W7M, they're finding their feet here on that Avon Labs as Dash manages to take down Maya as well. 3 versus 2, make it 3 versus 0 as the last kills come in a heartbeat. W7M, it felt like they were out of it, but no. They've grabbed a hold, they've clawed their way back in. They're now 1 round short, and it's no surprise to see Liquid rip that time out and say, it's time to have a chat.
Sooner now than when you're down 6 and 5, because this gives you at least 2, maybe 3 rounds to play with here to recover this. They only need the 1 on the board is the most important part, and W7M have to rotate through the off sites. Let's not forget the less preferable sites amongst their roster. I'm sure they're very happy to play the sites that you'll see them rotating through, all of them, but you always have the ones that you prefer going to, the ones that are easier to defend. And so there is an opportunity for Liquid to exploit that. But clearly things aren't quite going the way that they planned. What happened to that team that started this half so good with an attack into the basement? Because W7M are on the rise.
You can see Hugsword just having his input there, feeding into the players. He's a very, very experienced player himself prior to moving into coaching his Hugsword. So
Bit of a shotgun hero he used to be.
Absolutely did. A pleasure to watch. And now choosing to take up the coach's mantle in behind Liquid and feeding that intel and that information into them. What has he seen? What can they change? How can they mix up these attacks to try and take advantage of W7M? But you picked up on it on yourself, Des, earlier. Looking at Leia, they struggled on the attack with Liquid. They now come in here, and it's looking like a little bit more of the same for them over the last couple of rounds. They're starting to run out of ideas. W7M feel like they've got it figured out.
That's the thing. I think the problem that I have with this is it feels like the flow is in the flavor. It's in the favor of W7M, and they're the ones controlling how the rounds play out. One of the blessings of being the attackers, you tend to determine where the action happens, when it happens, and how it happens. Of course, defenders can respond, but they're very, very rarely the ones being proactive unless it's a lot of spawn peaks coming out or early C4s up through hatches or whatever else you might imagine. They're largely there for the ride and the ones having to be reactive, whereas the attackers are more proactive. If Liquid are short on ideas, this gets even comfier for W7M as time wears by. As said, it's only 1 round that Liquid need to at least guarantee we get to overtime. I'm starting to get concerned they might not even find that at this point, though. We'll see.
Still a setup going on from W7M. 30 seconds into the round, Liquid on the drones, just trying to get a clear picture this time. Maybe that's a little bit of what Hugsword has fed into them to say, we need to understand what the setup is better. We need to understand where that utility usage is. The Fenrir just teasing here on the door. Dordes needs to be careful lest he lose his head in this unnecessary challenge, to be honest.
He's just wasting time, though, quite happily here, because the sheer presence of him being at the door is enough to obviously put Nesk on a bit guard here, just being like, okay, got to keep hold of this angle here. Let's make sure he's being forced back if he does dare peek, at least to get a free kill off the back of it. So it's a great way to waste a little bit of time, and I spoke about this earlier. Sometimes it can only be a few seconds, but every second counts when a team is getting worn down to just those last 15 seconds, and they might have to execute when they're not fully prepared or fully informed as to what is going on. Ready and waiting is Palu, though. Finds out Lobin early on in this round as the first call comes through for the Dockerby. The second kill comes in from Meyer as well. Looking good for Liquid. 5v3 now in their favor. Make it a 5 versus 2. And this surely is theirs for the take-in. Tim Meyer's gone nuclear. And just like that, Liquid, they get themselves a flawless round and move up to map points.
I think whatever Hugsword said in the tactical timeout certainly did the job. Liquid coming back with a newfound vigour in that round to get themselves on to map point there. Just absolutely flying through W7M. Nothing could slow them down. Beautiful stuff from all round. 6-4 now for Liquid and W7M. They're going to have to dig deep. They're up on that top floor again. It can be a tough one to hold on to. We saw them do it well earlier. Can they go and get a win here a second time?
Big if on that one, I think. I'll see if they can get it over the line or if it really comes down to W7M scraping together 2 rounds. Working a bit of magic. And it's kind of a question of why fix what ain't broken here. Like, that was a pretty good setup for them. I've enjoyed the Monty, I've enjoyed the Dockerby, I've enjoyed the Deimos coming in as a triple threat. I think it does add an awful lot to the team where they can really impress the other side. Dockerby especially really showing herself to be a big part of their attacks, I think. Like you saw it there, they got the entry, the other 4 players were all being called, and it was then just an absolute bowl over for Meyer as he went from one kill to another, bouncing between players. He'll get himself on the Deimos here, though, no big surprise at all. Again, it's his most played operator by quite a country mile. Would much rather be on that than something like the Dockerby.
Let's get into what could be our final round. Lobin has made a real nuisance of himself so far. It was on the Oryx last time around that he got a double. when he was just playing these little rat positions out in the map on the windows, looking for those jump outs. This time it's going to be in kitchen. We'll see what he can cook up here. He's on the Valkyrie rather than the Oryx this time, and Liquid last time, it was on them. They didn't drone, they didn't check it out, they didn't understand exactly where the pressure may come from. They need to make sure that they do this time, and that is smart play from W7M. They're listening. They've got their ears pricked up, and they knew that that charge was being planted. It was shot straight off. Let's have another few through there, make sure they're not going for that soft breach again. They're going to keep lower warehouse as secure as they can.
It'll force the Monty to have to come in through the main exit of the building as well. He can't push into a larger breach or get a lot of information there. Instead, he's boxed into a bit of a bottleneck if it comes down to it. I think with the inability to get that breach opened up, he'll try and find something else to work with here, though. So again, it's another puzzle put up before. Look, another mini game they have to figure out, as you often find there are so many mini games in a round of Siege to chew your way through. They've also got someone who can work their way up from basement here. So Liquid very spread out at the minute. Tim, not a bad thing, but a lot of map to cover here and a lot of ground to work through. They find one or two players getting picked off. Suddenly a large parts of this map go dark, and that's always the risk of playing this more spread out style.
Lobin will continue on his roam across that middle floor for the time being. I think they're hoping to come across somebody, give it an opportunity to give a big start to the round here. 1 minute 25 left on the clock. Liquid need to think about getting moving. They've got the tracks going out, but not really gaining anything from it at the minute. Lagonis is going to be taken down. That is a huge mistake from Liquid. You could see on his player cam, Lagonis seemed to be talking to the team, feeding some information in. It was almost like he was sort of just taking a pause to give some information. It did not work out. The challenge onto the door. Ness does manage to find one onto Dots, but the trade is there immediately, and W7M, they decide that they want another round of Nighthaven Labs.
This is the big part of it right there. I think Lagonis, as you mentioned, kind of taking it chill for a second, thought he was covered. Didn't expect to get swung from top Aqua, and he paid the price for it. Dode's also bringing down resets, and Parlo's got 13 HP to his name. I don't think it really matters what he does at this point, Tim. Someone will find a single bullet into his body at some point. I'll ask how the hell they just missed that shot there, but the shotgun will do enough. Bolt steps round and finds his man. It is still map point, but W7M are 1 round away from sending us to overtime.
Potentially a very big mistake there from Liquid. Like I say, I'd be interested to see it back at some point. It certainly looked as though Lagonis had sort of backed himself into the corner thinking, I'm not going to get challenged here. I've just got something to tell the team. And then what a perfect time for W7M to swing that. Maybe they heard the Monty moving around down there. He is a very loud operator, and it was a little bit of a swing to just say, I'm going to have a look at what's going on Aqua Stairs, whether I'm being pushed here or not. And the opportunity was just served on a platter for them, and they ate it up. Great stuff, W7M, and they've got themselves down to basement. This is a real opportunity for them to push this to overtime.
Completely agree. See if they can get it done. Of course, we saw a really good Liquid attack at the start of the half on this site. But I feel it was more the surprise factor that caught W7M off guard. I mean, they had 4 players appearing in Exo. It was like, whoa, why are they all here? What the hell's going on? I've got a monster running at my face in it. It wasn't a good time. No fun was had in the defenders' camp. Whereas the next time around we saw that site being defended, W7M looked far more composed and were ready to deal with what came at them. So for me at least, the onus now flips over to Liquid. You're the ones who have got to change up the game plan here and work something a little bit different. And that different, Tim, involves not playing a shield. There is no Monty in the lineup this time around. Time for Lagonis to frag out.
Yeah, I think after the last round, I'd be put off playing a shield as well. It was a bit of a mistake there, a bit of a howler, and you're not really going to want any more of that. Let's see where Liquid begin to push them. We've got a presence from Lobin once again. He's certainly one to watch for W7M at the minute. He is that unpredictability factor. He's off in the kitchen once again. It's where we saw him last time on Valkyrie. This time, he's going to be on Fenrir. We've got 1 on cargo stairs, 1 in storage, and only 2, in fact, only 1 at the moment on site. Granted, your cargo stairs player and your vending stairs player, they're going to be pretty close but to get back to site quickly if needed. But Liquid, they are going to have a job on their hands, taking the time to find everybody's location and fully understand what W7M are doing here.
That's it, of course, all the soft construction you can make use of. It's an assault here from the second floor into the first, and then once you've got that control, you can go from the first floor down as well. There's so many layers to unwrap here. It's like an onion, Tim. Dash running out Nest to start things off. The IQ being taken offline. Nothing massive that you can really hunt down, but the FNAT's now not going to be so easily tagged. Same story with the Kaid Electro Claws that may not be so easy to remove now from above. It's not like a massive deal, but it does, again, start to slow you down and waste valuable seconds later in the round when you're trying to get rid of this crucial utility.
Maya continuing to work those verticals at the minute. He's got a lot of freedom, a lot of time inside a lounge and storage to do so. They do manage to find the placement for the soft breach. That's going to open up the wall and just allow access to those stairs should they want it, need it later in the round. And also the angles, of course, through the vertical to check down below them. A little bit of freedom of movement there. They cannot get the hatch inside of Warehouse. No. That could be a big play from W7M. Again, just preventing Liquid from doing exactly what they want, forcing them off meta, off plan, forcing them to do something different.
Hello, A-Stream. Welcome to the show. As you can see, Liquid maybe are about to close this one out. Maya finding at least one back over. But it's in a 4 versus 4 and 40 seconds to play. That's a lot of time here for Liquid to work with. Plant now going down. Look at this. Reset stepping in wide. C4 finds 2. Couldn't react in time. That's always going to be the battle of having a one-shot semi-automatic. And not a rifle that can just spray anything at your feet. 2 kills come back the other way. Palu doing a lot of work. Volts and Dash, can they hold on here? They've still got one smoke in back pocket, but no C4s.
Yeah, Dash is just looking to hold on from above. He finds his man, puts the diffuser down on the ground, manages to pick up the second, and W7M, well, we're going to overtime, Des.
As if they've managed to claw that back. Just when it looked like Liquid was so in control, they were up 5 and 2, they were dominating the game. And we thought this one's definitely going to Clubhouse for our third and final map, but no. W7M refused to lie down or roll over and just give it to Liquid. They fought their way back in and could still, close this out in 2, Tim. And again, we were pretty resigned towards the Clubhouse, but it just goes to show 2 halves to a game of Siege can never really write things off.
As I've said, we know Liquid are a good Clubhouse team, and maybe W7M are looking at this and thinking, you know what? We want no part of that. Nope. Let's just try and get it locked down now in 2 maps so that we don't have to go through that decider. As it stands, W7M start on the defense, which is perfect for them. They've just won 4 rounds on the defense. It gives them a little bit of an advantage here. Liquid, I know the A-Stream have just joined us. You won't have seen the first map on there necessarily. Liquid really struggled on the attack there. That was their problem. They didn't bring enough variety. They didn't have enough options, enough plans to surprise W7M to make it difficult for them. We saw them struggle to rotate and adapt a couple of times and fail to get rounds done in time. And so
it was the same story here.
It's continued a little bit here. Exactly what I was going to say. Liquid just haven't been able to break down W7M. W7M just kind of toying with them on the defense, burning away time, stretching themselves over the entire map and giving Liquid a lot to do. We can see Lagonis is back on that shield this time.
Yeah. I mean, they changed away from it in the last round, but I was going to say, every time we've seen them attack on the downstairs, it has been the same attack, realistically. Shield or not, it's kind of beside the point. They tried to go a bit more aggressive guns up in the previous round, and paid the prices. We saw it didn't work out for them, even with Parlo getting a pretty good 2k inside of EXO to bring things down to a 2 versus 2. So it feels like momentum sits with W7M. You'd expect with how things are now going, they'll close this map out, they'll take the 2-0, and they'll be one of our first teams qualifying into our live finals on Friday.
Droning will continue for the time being for Liquid. They need to make sure that they don't get too hung up on it, though. As I've said, time has been a factor. You can't always understand absolutely everything going on inside. There comes a point where you have to move. They're okay for the time being, and they're opening up those breaches. They've managed to get at least one in the external connector wall, but for the time being, the RT wall hangs on in there.
Well, let's not forget last time we were on this site, it was Lagonis getting picked off in Aqua for free, really. It was, I think, a bit of a lapse of judgment on his side or a lack of assessment of the situation to get swung on. Probably also asking, why wasn't no one watching Fish Store to be able to swing and capitalise if someone does that? So Liquid, even for half a second, just let their guard down and pay the price. A 1v1 now ready to ensue here as well. Reset's pushing in nice and tight, and he's ready to go for a very aggressive swing. I worry, though, that Dodes is aiming a little bit too high. He's looking more than Kano, looking down now. Ready, here we go. The step-in comes through, and it's Reset's coming out on top. Finds the entry in this round. A second coming in for Maya.
Yeah, I think Dodes just got caught out a little bit there, checking the wrong sort of, I don't know whether he was worried about a drone or something, but he was certainly concerned about that floor level, and it lost him the fight. 4 versus 3, as one is clawed back at least, but the breaching has been done. It's not the end of the world at this point to lose the ace. Liquid, 45 seconds left to go. Time, I think, is going to play a much bigger factor potentially than manpower inside of this round. They've got the shield working on him of Lagonis. It's time now to start making sure you've got a plant spot lined up. Where are you going with this? How are you going to get that diffuser down on the ground? Don't waste too much time setting this up.
Bolster's got the only C4 left as well for Zanar if so required. He's found out Palu here as well, and there we go. Maya steps forward and finds his man through the soft wall to close out the round. And they win and attacked him. That's the most critical part. Now look at go on the defense where they had the 4-2 half. And all of a sudden, just off the back of winning a single attack, maybe now we're leaning towards Liquid taking this map.
Just a much, much better attack at the end there from Liquid. I said time was the factor for them. They needed to make sure that they didn't, get hung up on where things are going. They got in there. They got the kills. They had 30 seconds left to spare. They knew that the moment and the opportunity had presented itself, and they took it, and that's not something that they've necessarily consistently done. So, 7-6. They have themselves an advantage. Can Liquid close it out? We've seen them have great defenses down here in the basement. They're likely to play off and around the map. They made it very difficult for W7M to close them down before they even got anywhere near site. W7M had lost multiple players, and Liquid are going to be looking for a repeat of that, I'm sure.
All right, does it all end here? Does it carry on to that third map, or do W7M battle their way in and demand a round 15 to decide how things close out? I can't imagine we'll find them going back upstairs if we come back to this again where they're on the defense in the next round. I imagine they go downstairs, but they've seen pretty good success. In fact, over the last 3 times they've played it, I believe they've won 2 of them, so why not stick to what has worked so well for you so far? That, of course, demands that they win this round first, though, on the attack. And naturally, Liquid are dug in deep. 2 Architects on side of the mirror and the castle, and also got the Electro Bros in Kaid and Bandit to make sure these walls stay firmly locked up.
Maya just opening up those angles inside of storage as well, which is an interesting one, as the castle, of course, it is an easy location to potentially challenge onto for W7M as attackers. Just going to hold himself back a little bit deeper in there. There's potentially fights that he's going to have to win, because that vertical prevents them going in through the breach basically at all, whilst Maya is up there above. So it's something that W7M need to be aware of, and if they want to play from the breach, they need to deal with.
You just start to demand the question of what are they going to do about this, because Resets has been an absolute demon on the bandit trick so far throughout this map. Earlier on, danced his way around. EMPs, a double hard breach, and managed to get rid of both Selmas on both sides of the breach and keep it firmly locked up, which is why you've now got that cover from Maya up inside of storage, so they can't get above the bandit and deny him playing on that wall, thus making it easy to open up. Still, it's Maya to fall here on that castle. He was the cover inside of storage, and Kyle, don't forget, with him now offline, a little bit of a stinger, because that may well mean that Resets is now exposed down below.
As I said, that really starts opening things up, because effectively, yeah, it's a book that's going to go into storage, but they don't even need to do any vertical. They don't need to announce their presence. That's the big thing. They can just go in there and use the verticals that Liquid had already set up. So I would expect the breach to be getting opened up for sure, should they be choosing to do so. Liquid now, they're getting bullied inside, they're getting pushed back, they're getting forced deeper, and that's going to create room for the plant when W7M get that breach open and decide it's time to go. Despite being further back inside of sight, can still be challenged on the verticals as well, and we can see it happening now. As I say it, Lobin is up there using the skeleton key, just trying to get every bit of advantage they can from that vertical superiority.
Tis but a scratch, 9 HP taken away, not the end of the world, but still enough to scare him away. That one, more than a scratch, that one's a flesh wound, all taken down, and away goes Nesk. A 2v5 with 50 seconds to play. W7M have no reason and no excuse for losing this round.
No, none whatsoever. Resets does manage to find Lobin with a Nitro. That at least gives a little bit of hope for Liquid, but Resets takes a lot of damage now, down to 18 HP. 30 seconds left to go. W7M with plenty of time to work with. Thinking about getting the diffuser down. No, you think I'm just going to kill Resets instead, then I'll go back to what I was doing, 3 versus 1. But Lagon is surely going to be shut out of having any impact on the plant here as the cover comes in, but no, he finds him. 1v4 becomes 1v2, taken down by Dots. And W7M get themselves another round and a round 15 to come.
Lagonis has hit some really nice shots this game. And it's funny because I swear I was talking smack about him earlier, saying there's a reason he plays on the Monty.
I've said it before.
He's not quite the sharpest shot in the world. That was a really weird one to say. Even throughout Stage 2, we saw exactly the same. He isn't that guy in this team whose job is to go out there and get kills. He's the IGL, he's that captain in the back line. He's doing a wonderful job of it as well. Today, though, I've been impressed.
I've said it before, you know, he does a very specific job in this game that doesn't lend him towards being that big gunner, going in and getting all those kills. But having played with him against other pros,
will you drop that you play with him once?
Against
Invitational.
Against other pros, though, you just make, you know, I make a broken call out in Portuguese, and 2 seconds later, bang, will go on a skill. And genuinely, the point I'm making is the ability is there, the skill is there. We see it from him. He does hit the shots, but it is difficult when you're playing on those operators. You're cold for a lot of the game. You know, if you're playing genuine thermite roles where you are not taking gunfights, you can sit without a gunfight for 4, 5, 6 rounds sometimes. If your team are finding all the kills, that's 30 minutes without taking a shot at people. And that can be tough when you then do come all of a sudden, bang, into that situation, right, you need to get 3 kills. And you're against people who have been hitting those shots all game. It can be a tough one, and I think he does do a good job of it.
We spoke about this about 3 minutes ago. I did want to see W7M come downstairs. They've had good success against Liquid so far. Sure got surprised back in round 7. We're like, oh God, 4 players, an Exo, and there's a shield there. What the hell do we do? They panicked a little bit. But I feel the last couple of times we've been here, they've had the answer, they've had the solution. Liquid, frankly, to have looked a little bit lost in what to do. They had a couple of execute attempts coming on through, but they've had no real opportunity to get the diffuser stuck or any real ability to find kills in the closing parts of the round. So here, all attention is on Liquid. They're the ones who can afford to make no mistakes. W7M, as I say so often, only have to be right once. Liquid have to be right all the time.
Lagonis just getting in there with the drones again, trying to get that picture. Out comes the Deimos scan. It's again not something that they've had as much success with here today as they have had previously. Not sure how much joy they're going to be getting from it, but Naya does manage to pick up Dash. Great start for Liquid. That's exactly what they needed. 5 versus 4.
When Maya's flying high, he's so hard to stop, and he was a little bit absent on the last map. We touched on this back then, that it's all good seeing one player step up in Palu, who's 8-2, and you said, where's that second player that's going to step up and join him? There wasn't a player on that map, whereas at least here, Maya's the one catching the numbers. And I will kind of say, every player in the game has been making a big contribution. It's not been a one-man army on either side, sure. You've got your more spiky players like Maya and Dots who are doing really well, but everyone is getting involved. That was an interesting miss.
Hatch will be open.
I don't think it meant to go there.
No, I'm not sure it did, but the hatch does get open. So the job is done, and they can start putting a little bit of pressure onto Animus as well. W7M have actually got themselves upstairs here, but I think that Liquid might be aware of it. Flashbang just gets thrown out to prevent that push coming through Lounge. However, Volps is just going to hold his position for the time being. Liquid are going to need to make sure that they're covering that flank. Oh, look at this, Dodes is just waiting his moment. It's a little bit of trigger discipline. He knows that they're in there. That's what he wants. Swings around the corner, takes the head off Maya. Dots with a nitro onto Nesk. Is it happening? 3 versus 3. This could go anywhere, Des.
They're still with 30 seconds to play out as well. That is acres of time to work with. W7M. A single C4 left in back pocket.
They don't know.
The attackers are now starting to push on through. Has Dots commandeered this? No, he is not. Lagonis has put so much praise on his name throughout this map that he holds on tight.
He's thinking about getting the diffuser down. He tickles it and he goes back to it. Surely he's going to hold it now. Is the cover there though? Dodes manages to find resets. Lagonis has to come up. It's all falling apart for Liquid as the kills rain in for W7M, and they will qualify through to the last stage of the Montreal